The story begins with a man fighting a beast covered in white snow. As the man deemed the monster worthy of a present for his master, he cut the beast into pieces. At the Rubedo family estate, a young girl named Wenty was mad at her butler named Art for taking a long time slaying a dragon. Art apologized for being late. However, Wenty no longer had the appetite to eat and told her father that Art had failed in his duties again. The head of the Rubedo family became mad and was disappointed at Art for failing in his duties. After believing that he himself was useless, Art fainted before hearing his master's request. When Art was still a baby, he was taken in by the Rubedo family. Art was trained to serve as a family butler. Art and Wenty used to get along well, but it eventually changed when Wenty developed a strong temper. Wenty demanded more tasks, from housework to slaying beasts. Art ended up developing magic just to serve Wenty. As Art's tasks piled up, he eventually stopped thinking and moved on to what was tasked to him. After collapsing in front of the head of the Rubedo family, Art was fired from his job and kicked from the estate. Walking in the forest and wondering what his next plans were, Art accidentally tripped, causing his food rations to fall. As Art laid on the ground covered in snow, a wolf sneakily walked towards him. When the wolf pounced at Art, he was able to grab the wolf's jaw and pin it to the ground. Grabbing his weapon, Art was about to kill the wolf when he suddenly heard barks nearby. After seeing the wolf cubs, Art decided to let go of the wolf and planned to head west to join a guild. After fighting multiple beasts and eating what he deemed edible, Art eventually reached the guild Firen. Seeing that there were many extermination requests, Art decided to take the Isfiel family laundry request since it fits his previous work. Aside from the guild receptionist, the people inside the guild looked at Art with worry, since nobody had succeeded in the laundry request. Everyone stopped talking as the Ice Princess of Isfiel family walked into the room. After glaring at everyone, Isfiel handed over the quest items to the guild receptionist. When the guild receptionist told the princess that someone wished to take their family chores, she was then pointed at Art's direction. The infamous Ice Princess then introduced herself to Art as the eldest daughter of the Isfiel family, Isfiel Urk. Surprised after seeing Urk's manners, Art bent his knees and introduced himself to Urk. Both were surprised when Art spouted a line used as a butler. When Urk warned Art that the monster's blood won't wash off easily, Art did not falter as he still wanted to take the quest. When Urk asked how long it would take for Art to clean the blood off, Urk was surprised after hearing Art mention 1 hour. Urk then brought Art to the Isfiel family estate and was told to follow Tet to the garden. Tet then introduced himself to Art as the head butler and wanted to confirm with Art if he is here for the laundry. After following Tet to the garden, Art learned that Urk became an adventurer to prove her worth according to family traditions. Tet also explained that the Isfiel family was a noble house with the rank of Marquis. After learning the Isfiel family history, Art found their ways quite harsh. After bringing Art the laundry and explaining to him how long the cleaning would take, Tet was surprised that Art did not even show a worried look. When Urk finally arrived at the garden, he asked Art if there was still blood on her face as he stared at her for so long. Finding Art strange, Urk smiled before bidding Art good luck. Seeing the difference between Wenty and Urk, Art took off his coat and started cleaning the clothes. The other helpers wondered if Art was fine and offered help. However, Art told them he was fine and proceeded to show his magic in clearing the clothes. Urk was amazed as she had never seen such kind of magic before. It was the type of magic that Art developed in doing all of his chores, his very own original domestic magic. Urk found the bubbles that are coming out of the clothes beautiful. After hanging the clothes, Tet and the other helpers were amazed as the clothes looked brand new. Since Tet was curious about what methods Art used, Art asked them if they had heard of slimes, as he explained how the slimes absorb and digest anything they touch. From that same principle, Art created the digestion spell. Art then replaced the digestive fluids with detergent to clean things. The maids found Art's creation ingenious. As Urk stared at Art, he and Tet were surprised when Urk apologized for doubting him. Urk was amazed at how fast Art finished the laundry, while she had made everyone work for as long as it needed. Art was surprised when Urk asked if it was okay to call him again. Triggering a memory he had with Wenty, Art bent his knees and told Urk that he would do whatever she commands. Urk touched Art's face and clarified with him that what she asked wasn't an order but rather a request. Art liked that word request as he was used to being given orders constantly. However, being told of a request gives him the right to decide for himself. Art smiled as he now decides to live for his own life moving forward. Art was surprised when he saw Urk right after he opened his eyes. He then became confused as he wondered where he was. Art was now worried as he couldn't remember why he was on a bed. Art covered his face with a pillow as he was embarrassed after realizing that he was in Urk's room. After being asked by Urk if he didn't remember, Urk explained that Art collapsed after doing the laundry. Art exhausted himself from doing so much laundry. Art couldn't believe it himself that he pushed himself too far using magic alone. When Urk asked if he was okay, Art responded that he was now much better. However, Urk knew Art was lying since he looked so pale. When Urk showed Art his reward for cleaning the clothes, he was surprised after being handed a chest full of treasures. When Art responded that he does not have plans elsewhere, Urk gave him a new set of clothes to which he was very grateful. Before complimenting how Art looked in the suit, Urk mentioned that the suit is clothing prepared for servants as she wishes to employ him. Art thanked Urk for her generosity as he would gladly serve her. However, Urk asked Art to stop with the formalities as they are of the same age. After agreeing to Urk's terms, they then headed for breakfast. Art then whispered to Tet, asking him why Urk was acting so nice. Tet assumed that Art had heard of the rumors circulating in the guild. Tet then explained why Urk was known as the Ice Princess. There were many nobles that despised the commoners. Urk absolutely despised those kinds of nobles and could not stand being in the same presence as them. Urk was a kind person as she sees the same perspective as the commoners. At the dining area, Art was greeted by the head of the Isfiel family, Isfiel Ramon. As Ramon and Art got comfortable with each other, Urk noticed the dark circles under her father's eyes getting worse. Urk suggested her father see a doctor. However, Ramon does not want to consult a doctor for only dark circles as he assumes that it was due to not sleeping properly in the house. Ramon and Urk got into an argument over Ramon's health. Ramon immediately changed the topic and told everyone that he missed the imperial beds as he felt like sleeping on clouds. Everyone was surprised when Art offered to make Ramon an imperial bed. Seeing everyone's reaction, Art wondered if he said something wrong. Tet explained that only a craftsman with decades of experience could make a royal bed. At the shortest, Tet believed that one could make it in a year. When Art mentioned that his previous master had told him before to make it from a glance, Ramon found it intriguing and offered 10,000 gold to Art if he really could make one. Hearing the head of the Isfiel family making a humble request, Art felt nostalgic since it has been long since someone depended on him. When Art mentioned that he first needed some great blackbird feathers, Urk found it to be dangerous and decided to tag along with Art. As Urk and Art were setting up bait for the great blackbird, Urk wondered if the quality would be the same since the feathers of the blackbird were extremely hard and dirty. Art asked Urk to relax and reassured her that whatever the people needed him to do, he would handle it to the best of his abilities. Though Urk trusted Art in making the imperial bed, she was still worried about him since the blackbird is a B-rank monster. When Urk offered to defeat the monster, Art refused her offer and wished to do it himself. Art found it very strange that the blackbird hasn't roamed around the area yet. After hearing the great blackbird's roar, the two realized that the blackbird was above them. As the blackbird broke their cover, Urk tried protecting Art from the monster. However, her normal attacks do not deal serious damage to the monster. Seeing the blackbird preparing for its acid attack, Art immediately paralyzed the monster in order to protect Urk. While the blackbird was still unable to move, Art took the opportunity and cut off the blackbird's neck with just one swing of his sword. Urk was surprised and was curious about Art's sword technique as she couldn't even see the sword. Urk was even more surprised when she learned that Art could also use paralysis magic. Art looked clueless as he learned that his abilities were not common. When they were about to skin the blackbird, Art noticed Urk being hesitant. When Urk stabbed the blackbird, she was immediately covered with the monster's blood. When asked if that was the reason why she always gets covered with blood, Urk asked for Art to be quiet about it. After washing off the blood and preparing the blackbird's feather, Urk was still worried if Art could really make the imperial bed with it. Both Tet and Urk were mesmerized when Art used his ability to clean off the blackbird's feathers. Urk was surprised after seeing the feather fully turned white. She was also surprised when Art explained that the blackbird's feather used to be white, but only turned black when becoming an adult. Hearing everyone in the estate giving him compliments, Art couldn't help himself but be embarrassed. When Art finally finished creating the imperial bed, Ramon was immediately in deep sleep after laying on the bed for a couple of minutes. Surprised when the others requested the same bed, Art decided to make a bed for each and everyone. When Tet made Art realize his potential and that other nobles may appear and take advantage of him, Art immediately remembered his past but happily responded that he just wanted to see everyone's happy faces. Art was embarrassed when Urk promised Art to protect his smiling face. As Art was about to head back to his room, Urk grabbed his hand and asked if he could visit the terrace later at night. When Art finally arrived on the terrace, he was mesmerized by Urk's beauty. As Art initiated the conversation, he was surprised when Urk mentioned that all the wonderful things happening to them were because of him. When Urk asked Art where he was from exactly, Art remembered that he had never mentioned it before and wondered if it was okay to bring it up. Urk reassured Art that she would always be on his side no matter what he said. Art felt glad and told Urk all about his time with the Rubedo family. Hearing Art mention his debt to the Rubedo family and blaming himself for failing their expectations, Urk was curious if Art really thought it was his fault. When Urk asked Art to be honest with himself, Art hesitated, though he knew that with Urk it would be fine. Urk then shared that she hated being called the Ice Princess. The Isfeel family was always prestigious amongst the nobility, even for a marquis. However, Urk never gave much thought to her family's position. Urk only wanted to be friends with everyone, but was disappointed when she heard her friend and her father trying to use her for their own greed, though nobility of higher ranks held incredible power. Urk felt that she had been cursed by her position. When Urk asked Art if he hated the nobility, she was surprised when Art answered no. Art explained that even though being thrown out was painful, he realized that there are still kind nobles after seeing both Urk and Ramon. Remembering what Art said before, Urk was glad to hear his answer as it fit him well. As their conversation finished, Urk vowed never to forget the never-ending Lady Wenty as they took full advantage of Art's kindness. The following day, Urk was about to head to the Adventurers Guild. When Art wished to tag along, Urk asked Art to take a break since he was working too much. As Urk left the mansion, Art heard the maids' woes as their vegetables were being swarmed with bugs. Art then caught the maids' attention, informing them that he had a great idea. The maids were amazed as they saw the bugs run away from the vegetables. Art then explained that he used laundry and bestowal magic to attach Ramon's scent. When the two are combined, it drives the bugs away. A man named Lord Frey overheard Art's explanation and was amazed by his work. Frey's presence alone created a massive commotion among all the maids. As the maids left and gave Frey and Art time to talk, Frey then introduced himself to Art as Urk's brother, Frey Isfeel. When Art greeted Frey formally, Frey asked him to stop with the formalities and complimented how his sister was so beautiful before asking Art to do a handshake. With just a handshake, Frey sensed something from Art and immediately asked him for a duel. Art later realized that Frey's hand was so cold. Frey coldly stared at Art as he waited for Art to show his hidden power. Art asked once again if Frey really wished for them to duel. Frey responded that he did since he felt a little rusty after traveling for so long. Art was curious about why Frey wanted them to duel, but was only told by Frey that he wanted to gain brotherly points after defeating Art. After agreeing to Frey's request, Art was surprised when Frey vanished momentarily and showed up behind him. As their swords clashed heavily, Frey was amazed since Art was able to survive the attack. Art was terrified of Frey's slash since one move alone was equivalent to getting hit by a cannonball. Realizing how dangerous the fight would become, Art decided to get serious as well. Seeing Art becoming serious, Frey decided to increase his speed and charged at Art with powerful force. As their swords clashed, creating a heavy atmosphere, Frey did not expect Art to exceed his expectations since all of his attacks were blocked. Frey had no plans of losing the fight as his honor as the heir of the family was at stake for him. Showing any form of weakness to the other families could exert political pressure against the Isfeel family. That is when Frey decided that the Isfeel family must be stronger than anyone else. Even though Frey was already going all out, he was more curious about Art's limits. Frey was surprised and pleased when Art suddenly told him not to hold back and to wear him down. Deciding to no longer hold back, Frey cast a huge spell above them which caught Ramon's attention. Frey revealed that he could also use bestowal magic, and along with refrigeration, he could create ice. Seeing Frey's ability, Ramon did not expect less from his heir. However, Ramon and Frey were surprised when Art smashed the ice. Astonished by Art's abilities, Frey asked him how he was able to destroy the ice. After explaining to Frey about creating friction from bestowal magic, both Ramon and Frey found it very clever and were more intrigued by Art. Though the two only knew so recently and had different goals, all of it connects to Urk. As the two were amazed by one another's prowess, Frey sensed that Art was still holding back. Frey shared that he was still using 70% of his power, and that moving forward he was about to get serious. In the distant past, during the war between gods and titans, a titan known as the Great Wolf amassed fathomless power in a bid to destroy the gods. With one decisive blow, its jaws rent the earth asunder and devastated the world. Releasing his powerful technique that showed a massive wolf covered in ice, Frey couldn't believe it when his powerful technique was defeated by Art's single swing. Art, who has become one with his technique, destroyed and defeated Frey's technique and transcended the limits of human reason. As their swords each reached their limits and broke, the two had totally different reactions. Frey laughed and admitted his defeat. He realized that Art was really a good guy for targeting the blade of his sword to not injure him. When Tet finally found them, Art was shocked to learn that Frey was a royal knight. Frey reintroduced himself again as the first chair of the Royal Knights Magic Academy and the vice captain of the Royal Knights. Frey then asked for Art to be silent about the secret, revealing that Frey was basically already the captain, and only the king and the Isfeel family knew of it. At the Rubedo household, Wenty was making her usual ruckus. As she wondered where Art was and why her father had fired him, Wenty asked her father to dismiss the employee who had served her. Realizing that what had been served to her was the 10th one, her father wondered if it really was that terrible. However, Wenty just threw another tantrum as she wished that Art was still at the household. Understanding that they could never truly replace Art, The head of the Rubedo household reminded Wenty again that the royal ball was just in 3 days. After learning that the ball would still take place, Wenty's mood changed and she was very excited to wear the wonderful dress that Art had made for her. Walking to the garden, Frey called Erk's attention to let her know that he was finally home. However, instead of being happy, Erk found it annoying. Frey was disappointed when Erk greeted Art instead and asked him about the request that he had handled. Seeing Erk compliment Art and giving him such high regard, Frey was annoyed and asked Art for another duel. Hearing Frey's words, Erk assumed that Frey was bullying Art. Even though Frey tried explaining to Erk, he immediately felt defeated when Erk told him she hated him. When Ramon finally arrived, he asked Frey to apologize so that the issue would end. Frey then mentioned that he had a message to deliver. When both Erk and Ramon asked if it was regarding the event, Art was curious and wanted to know what they were talking about. After explaining to Art about the royal ball, Erk shared her displeasure at being forced to attend the ball. Unfortunately for Erk, her presence was requested by the Duke, which meant that she had no choice. Both Frey and Tet apologized to Erk as they could not attend the ball with her since they were busy with their own tasks. As Ramon wondered who could attend the ball with Erk, everyone's attention was immediately drawn to Art. When Erk mentioned that she would go if Art was coming with her, Tet was in favor of Art going as he was the perfect fit to be Erk's bodyguard and a representative for Frey. Realizing that he would again be useful to Erk, Art accepted their request, which delighted Erk. When Erk decided to have her dress made, she felt uncomfortable when one of their maids pointed out that her body was growing. After hearing the maid's words, Erk was confused as to why Art's face popped into her head. When the maid mentioned that they needed to have the bust enlarged, Erk was embarrassed when the maid mentioned that they may need Art's assistance. While the maid continued teasing Erk, Ramon and Frey, on the other hand, discussed a different matter. Frey mentioned that eclipse locusts were happening again. Ramon was worried about the land and their livestock as the locusts would destroy everything. Ramon was more saddened after learning that the eclipse locusts had already begun and had already struck Paul. When Ramon asked for Frey's opinion about Art, Frey had a good opinion of Art, to which Ramon also agreed. Frey found it very fortunate that they found Art as he thought of the bed Art made, dangerously comfortable. As Ramon mentioned that he would deal with the locusts himself, he then asked Tet to give him the report about the Rubedo family. Tet reported that a former staff member told him of a dark rumor. It was said that the Rubedo family has access to large sums of money from unauthorized sources. Ramon only hoped that nothing would happen. As Erk and Art were about to head to the ball, Erk shared how she finds nobles quite troublesome. To break her saddened look, Art told Erk that she looked beautiful. After telling Art to stop with the compliment, Erk was embarrassed when Art kneeled in front of her as he vowed to protect her. Art's action eased Erk's worries. Art has decided for himself that he would no longer be anyone's puppet. In front of the mansion, Art could see the worry on Erk's face. Using the cleanse and enchant perfume, Art was able to calm Erk down. As the two went inside the mansion and joined the party, all the nobles complimented how beautiful Erk looked. Seeing Erk getting uncomfortable, Art reassured her that he was there for her. After calming Erk down, they then heard the music playing, which prompted Art to ask Erk for a dance. As the two danced on the floor, Erk was surprised at how good Art's dancing skills were. A mysterious young lady spotted Art on the floor and immediately hugged him. Surprised to see the young Princess Leah, Art asked her to release him. After sharing how Art saved Leah from a dragon's wrath and was her knight in shining armor, Erk made her presence known to Leah. When Erk asked Art about what just happened, Art couldn't explain it himself as he also did not know. When Leah asked for them to go to a quieter place, everyone's attention was immediately directed at Wenty, who had just recently arrived. Boasting the dress that Art had made for her, Wenty asked her father which noble he had picked to be her fiancé. When her father pointed at the fat noble who was stuffing himself with food, Wenty was shocked and insulted the fat noble. The head of the Rubedo family immediately slapped Wenty to stop her insults. After apologizing to everyone for the commotion, Wenty couldn't believe that her father would lay a hand on her. Scared of the man she was about to marry, Wenty ran away. Erk, on the other hand, was curious about how Art and Leah were acquainted. Realizing that Art was just really nice to everyone, Erk became curious when Leah asked if Art liked what Leah had sent her. When Leah boasted that she sent a large number of gold bars, Art became confused as he did not remember such a thing. Leah did not want to miss her opportunity with Art and asked him if he was free after the ball. While Leah and Erk argued about who Art should go with, Wenty, on the other hand, was running away from her father and her fiancé. Wishing for Art to save her, Wenty's attention was drawn to the commotion Erk and Leah were making. After seeing Art in the ball, Wenty called for him with anger in her eyes. 8 years ago, when both Art and Wenty were still kids, Wenty was bullied by everyone and called various names. When Wenty asked Art to punish those who were mean to her, Art tried reasoning with her, telling her that she was a nice person. From then on, Wenty was mad as Art did not even try to save her. Back in the current time, Wenty asked Art where he was and if he had quit being her butler. Art was nervous and couldn't talk back to Wenty. When Wenty told Art that they were now leaving, Urk stopped her, as she could tell that the rumors about Wenty were true. Curious about Urk's identity, Wenty later realized that she was talking to the Ice Lady and immediately apologized for her discourtesy. When Wenty asked Urk why Art was acquainted with the Marquis family, she was only told by Urk to stand down and leave Art alone. However, Wenty was hard to persuade and responded that the decision was for Art to make. Art did not expect to meet Wenty when he decided to go to the ball. But when he heard Wenty mention that her orders were absolute, Art became nervous and could not speak properly. Seeing Art in an uncomfortable situation, Leah asked Urk if she knew about the story of Hiyoko. After explaining to Urk the similarities of the story to Art's situation, Leah told Urk that Art was not being dominated by his fear of Wenty. Hearing that Art was trying to retain his sense of self while returning to who he was in the past, Urk couldn't believe that Art, who can do almost anything, was listening to Wenty's orders. Learning that Art would rather listen to someone who would trample others and use them until they're all worn down, Urk asked Art why he would lie to her. Leah asked Wenty about the mountain of gold he had sent for Art. Wenty tried to feign ignorance but could not hide it anymore when Leah informed her that Art had already told her. When Wenty mentioned that all of Art's belongings were also hers, she tried asking for Art's confirmation. However, Art himself was still unable to talk. Wenty tried to manipulate Art once again to escape Leah's accusations. Art was now in a spiral as he tried to avoid causing trouble for Urk and ended up assisting Wenty. As Art showed a cold look, Urk asked Art if he remembers the first time he had helped her with his washing magic. After reminding Art of all the good things he has done for the Isfeel family, Urk asked Art to rely on her for once. When Wenty saw Art stopping, she told Art not to listen to Urk's words. However, Urk asked Art for another request, which was for Art to stop lying to her. As Art turned around, he felt somewhat released from Wenty's orders. Hearing Urk's request, Art felt that he was the worst for betraying the trust of all the kind-hearted people who had helped him. Knowing that he was about to betray Urk, Art tried to reach out to her but was dragged by Wenty as she no longer wished to stay in the mansion. Realizing that he had disappointed the only person that accepted him for who he was, it was then that Art knew he had failed as a butler. Art no longer wanted to lie to Urk. He then apologized to Leah and told her the truth. While everyone had a different reaction to Art's honesty, Art told Wenty that he was expelled from the house and was no longer her butler. Wenty tried ordering Art to stop talking. However, Art could no longer be manipulated as he told Wenty that he was now Urk's butler. Wenty froze as Urk told her that she would intervene if she plans to make Art do anything else. Wenty wanted to retaliate but instead threw a tantrum as she had thought that Art was always her butler. Leah reminded Wenty that their matter was not yet settled, and for her impudence towards the kingdom she would be punished right now. Hearing that her father and the other houses were escaping, Wenty told Art that she would not forget the embarrassment that she received before leaving. However, she embarrassed herself even more after stepping on her own dress and falling over. While everyone's attention was directed at the nobles who left the party, Art was surprised when Urk hugged and welcomed him back. Their moment was broken by Leah when she mentioned that she did most of the work. The two then continued with their argument but were abruptly stopped when Urk was told that terrible news was about to land towards her home, as a large number of black bats were approaching. Art was introduced to Peters, the guildmaster. After their introductions, Peters then told everyone that they shouldn't be too relaxed, as the locusts were much more dangerous than they think. Peters revealed that 20 years ago, the locusts started getting imported to a famine-struck kingdom. Because of their black and hard shells, the locusts do not die easily. Art remembered in the royal capital books that there was a swarm of between 100 million to 1 billion locusts. After sharing that the other cities had already been decimated, Ramon knew that there would always be a substantial amount of damage. However, Peters told them that this time was different, as there are now around 500 billion locusts. Surprised to learn the actual numbers, Ramon and Tet guessed that the pure Queen Batter's manifestation has shown up. Urk was confused about what they meant. Peters explained that black ones are the common ones, while the white and large ones are what they call the pure. Knowing that it was ranked as the most dangerous, Peters wanted to defeat the Pure right away, but was hesitant since its power was strong enough to destroy a whole country. When Tet asked how long they have until the Pure arrives, Frey was surprised and now worried when Peters told them that the Pure would arrive in 1 week. Another problem for them is that if the swarm would continue to take the exact route, then the royal capital Drad would eventually end up getting attacked. When Art offered a suggestion, Peters was doubtful of Art but was supported by Urk and Ramon as they wished to know Art's suggestion. When Art showed them his lemon water and explained that he could apply bug-repelling magic to it, Peters thought of it as a joke. However, they were all surprised when the maid shouted that it was because of the lemon water that the bugs stopped approaching her even though she didn't take much of it. Art then reassured them that if all things went according to plan, the lemon water could buy them time for the next 2 days. Learning the effectiveness of the lemon water, Peters asked Art if he could really do it. Art reassured everyone that they could leave it all to him. Art was confident that no matter what happens, he would protect the Isfeel family. Urk was now more amazed by Art on how he could stand up for anyone. When their meeting finally ended, Urk took a bath and thought that Art gave all of his power for her sake, and ended up always being saved. Outside the capital, Leah sneaked out of her home without informing someone. Leah couldn't let Urk take Art away from them as they were now on a mission to get Art and head to the Isfeel household. Art was not expecting to find locusts in the Isfeel family garden. As Art greeted his experimental locust, Urk saw Art's notes and was curious if he had looked at all the piled-up books. Art responded that he had, as they did not have much time. Worried for Art, Urk asked him not to overwork himself and mentioned that he could always ask for her help. Art, who promised never to lie to Urk again, decided never to make Urk worry, and was grateful for her taking care of him. Though the locusts loved the wheat poisoned with enchanting magic, it still didn't help Art in coming up with a good plan. Art was surprised when Princess Leah suddenly showed up. After greeting Urk and Art, Leah told them that she came to help out and asked him to accept the mountain of gold she had brought. Even though the amount Leah gave Art before was less, it still left not just Art but also Urk in a frozen state after seeing the stacked gold. Leah also mentioned that she had brought the required materials regarding the black batters. When Urk told Leah that she may have overdone herself, Leah was annoyed as she somewhat boasted that what she had brought was not yet much. When Leah asked Art for his response, Art was confused and asked what response she meant. Princess Leah explained that she was talking about her marriage proposal to Art, which surprised both Art and Urk as they didn't even remember Leah proposing to Art. Leah tried explaining the events that transpired before, but that just made no sense for Urk. The two started arguing again, putting more pressure on Art. When Art asked the two young ladies to stop fighting, Leah suddenly asked Art if she was not to his liking. Seeing Art unable to respond right away, Leah tried persuading him by bribing him with a book that contains explosion magic. However, Art had no need for such a spell. Annoyed, Leah decided to help out in another way. When Art asked Leah if she could help out with the locusts, Leah was surprised and immediately shivered in fear. Though Leah hated the task, she still wanted to do it just to help Art. After assigning the task to Leah, Art excused himself from everyone as he was about to head into the woods. Urk offered to go with Art as she was worried for Art's well-being since the Queen Batter was outside, which meant that the monsters had started to go savage. Art reassured Urk and told her that he was just going to get adventurers from the guild to help with the situation. Art pointed out that even though it was reassuring if Urk came along, Leah needed someone to watch over her. Thinking that she was once again being protected, Urk disappointingly agreed with Art. Seeing how the two were getting close, Leah felt dejected, which Art noticed and told her that she would receive a reward for looking after the princess. When Art finally left, both Urk and Leah read the books and observed Art's experimental locusts. As they observed the locusts' passive behavior, Urk reminded Leah that it was about time to feed the locusts. Seeing the locusts eat anything, Urk wondered where Art was now and if he was okay. Thinking like a loving wife sending her husband off to battle, Leah wondered why she had to wait along with Urk. As the two talked about the task given by Art, Urk changed the topic and asked Leah about the gold embezzlement incident. Leah revealed that they were planning on imposing an appropriate punishment on the wrongdoers, and would most likely imprison them. Leah shared that usually such a crime would result in death, but in order to impress Art, they planned not to take their lives instead. Urk wondered if Leah planned on informing Art about the Rubedo family's punishment. Leah was not sure if she should tell Art, but when she saw Urk's worried look, Leah told her that women needed to have tolerance. Confused by what Leah meant, Urk then realized that it was a gentleman's job to try their hardest to gather a lady's favor. As she teased Urk, Leah was confused and wondered why she was giving advice to her rival. When Urk mentioned that it was time to feed the locusts again, Leah asked Urk if she would accept the gold bars. Urk now wondered what Leah was planning by giving her gold. At the Rubedo household, Wenty was sitting on her bed and was just silent. As Wenty sat on her bed, talk of the gold bars had been restricted. However, Wenty was never really interested in the money. What Wenty wanted was for Art to stay, but after being rejected by Art for the first time, Wenty realized that Art no longer cared for her. Wenty had trusted the world all because of Art. Even back when they were still young, Art was the only one who genuinely cared for her. Wenty always knew that her actions were hurting the people around her, which scared her. Since Wenty wasn't kind, she relied on Art's kindness, thinking of him as family. However, Wenty only repaid Art's kindness by treating him like a slave. Now, Wenty could only apologize for her actions. Even though she had hurt Art, she still liked him very much. Hearing the commotion outside her room, Wenty peeked and saw her father being arrested. When an officer saw Wenty and asked if she knew about all the wrongdoings done by her father and the Flamen family, he was no longer surprised when Wenty cooperated with them. As Wenty was being arrested, she could only think of Art and wished to apologize to him. On the other hand, Art was with the Sword of the Blue Sky Guild members as they scoured the forest. Getting along with them, Thea, a member of the Sword of the Blue Sky, asked Art if he had finished gathering the intel. Art responded that he had and was very grateful for them as they were able to scan the perimeter of the royal capital. Thea was surprised when the number of monsters showing up increased after encountering 20 of them on the road. Due to Queen Batter's influence, the monsters' appearances had been rapidly increasing. Brad, a member of the Sword of the Blue Sky, had his acquaintances put a dent in a goblin horde's population because there were so many of them. Though Art shared his worry about Queen Batter's ability to make monsters go berserk, Huey, also a member of the Sword of the Blue Sky, reassured Art that they would defeat any monster that came their way. When Huey hurt himself by walking into a tree, Brad warned Huey of a giant bear above the tree. As Huey was about to get attacked by the giant bear, he was fortunate that Art swiftly decapitated the giant bear's arm, saving him in the process. Both Thea and Brad couldn't believe how fast Art was since he had been beside them just a second ago. When the giant bear tried to attack Art and Huey, Art combined his skills to counter the giant bear's attack. Art was surprised when the giant bear could match his speed, but was still able to cut off the giant bear's head using his quick draw technique. While the members of the Sword of the Blue Sky were impressed by Art's skills, Art was more worried about the rampaging monsters as the effect of Queen Batter was much stronger than expected. All of a sudden, they heard a strange sound and wondered if it was a song. However, they were in shock as they saw a swarm of black bats above them. Without a second thought, Art ran as fast as he could to give an updated report that the arrival of the black bats wasn't in 1 week, but rather in 3 days' time. The news spread all over the town, making the people very anxious. Learning that some aristocrats had fled to a distant place, the citizens of the capital considered fleeing as well. Inside the castle, Chancellor Cyrilla became enraged after learning that the threat of the Queen Batter was already spreading throughout the town. When informed about the people's distrust towards the monarchy, Chancellor Cyrilla dismissed it and ordered the apprehension of everyone at the newspaper company, with the additional gruesome order to cut off their limbs. King Drad scolded Chancellor Cyrilla and lectured him on how important the people were for a nation. The monarchy's subjects were worried about King Drad's health, as it was not in the best condition. King Drad revealed that it was partly their fault since they hadn't had an effective countermeasure for a long time. Anil, the monarch's subject, reported that they currently had 3,000 royal knights present. However, a third of them could not be deployed as they would be focused on defending the palace. When King Drad asked about the 3 royal commanders, Anil reported that only Royal Knight Marcos was ready for deployment, while the remaining 2 were working on an assignment far away. King Drad was disappointed with their current generation. As the Drad household had fought numerous demons and helped develop the country, King Drad did not expect that a single monster could endanger a whole nation. While King Drad was making every effort for the sake of the nation's future, he noticed that he hadn't seen Leah and wondered about her whereabouts. After Anil reported to King Drad what Leah had done, the king became worried about Leah's well-being. At Art's laboratory, Art was surprised to see Locust 1 glowing. It was then revealed that Leah gave a gold ingot to the Locust just for fun. When they saw the outer shell change, they were somewhat persuaded by their greed to feed it with more gold. As Urk and Leah trembled and apologized to Art for what they had done, they were surprised when Art suddenly hugged and thanked them for their work. When Urk asked if Art was not mad, Art responded that there was no need, as the 2 princesses had made a great advancement in all of human history. When Art returned to his notes, Urk felt pleased as she was able to help Art with his task. Urk then realized that all the credit goes to Leah and not her. Realizing that Art came back safe and sound, Urk planned to show her appreciation. When Urk was about to hug and congratulate Art, they were surprised when Leah suddenly shouted. Worried about what happened, Leah explained that she was just so happy thinking that she was finally able to help Art. When Art asked Leah to stop crying, Leah requested to pat her head first. Seeing how Art patted Leah's head, Urk couldn't believe Leah's stubbornness. Tet opened the door and apologized for disturbing them. As Urk teased Leah, Tet, who wore a serious look, informed them that there was a situation they needed to take care of first. In the presence of the Royal Knight Commander, Art accurately deduced that the man before him was Frey's superior due to his imposing strength. Peters was taken aback upon seeing the Royal Knight Commander, assuming they were occupied with cleaning up the wreckage in the city. After confronting the A-rank monster that frequently emerged near the Imperial capital, Royal Knight Commander Marcos promptly approached Peters and the others. When Art attempted to introduce himself, he was surprised and bewildered when Marcos instructed them to stay out of the matter, as they were now taking charge of annihilating the monsters. As Marcos thrust his sword into the ground, it generated a powerful shockwave, shattering everything in the vicinity. Marcos then apologized to Peters for nearly harming everyone, explaining that they were outnumbered and had to weaken the monsters with a minor quake. Art found it hard to believe, as the original quake could only make an opponent's body quiver at most. When a giant bear threatened a nearby knight, Commander Marcos noticed and promptly blocked the attack with his own arm. He defeated the giant bear by pinning its head with his bare hand. As Commander Marcos headed towards the area filled with monsters, he effortlessly eradicated them, regardless of their power. Art was certain that among the people he had encountered so far, Commander Marcos's strength belonged to an entirely different league. Peters disclosed to Art that Commander Marcos was the reason why the Imperial capital had maintained peace to this day, solely focused on annihilating the enemy before him. Since Marcos joined the Imperial Knights approximately 15 years ago, no other nations had attempted invasion. Art marveled at how Marcos courageously acted as bait, buying time and ensuring the safety of everyone. He wondered if he had half as much courage as Marcos. Perhaps Urk wouldn't have shed tears. As Commander Marcos instructed everyone to step back, he blatantly disregarded others' concerns for him and prepared to obliterate another wave of monsters. Recalling Urk's promise, Art now wanted to be the protector after being accepted by Urk for who he was. Utilizing the combination of Art's abilities, he created a new type of magic called Misty Jail and multicasted, capturing the monsters above. When Art snapped his fingers, the monsters inside the Misty Jail vanished into thin air. Art did not escape the consequences of multicasting an enchant spell and immediately fell to his knees. Commander Marcos approached Art, introduced himself, and complimented Art on his impressive spellcasting. The members of the Royal Knights were surprised to hear Commander Marcos praising Art, as it was highly uncommon. As Commander Marcos expressed gratitude towards Art, Art was taken aback by the sudden change in behavior. He then reintroduced himself as a new member of the Isfiel household. While the two locked eyes, they were abruptly interrupted by Tet, who informed Art that Urk was engaged in battle with multiple monsters at a nearby orphanage. While fending off a pack of monstrous wolves, Urk felt frustrated, knowing that one mistake on her part could mean the end for the nuns and children she was protecting. Thinking of Art, Urk reminded herself not to be lenient, as Art was also risking his life to fight in the city. Urk had always worked very hard to be Art's strength. She decided to protect everyone, even if it meant doing it alone. Urk swung her sword to its fullest, knocking the wolves down one by one. As the dust blocked her vision, she was surprised when a rock came hurtling towards her. When Urk deflected the rock with her sword, she found herself surrounded by wolves. Realizing her mistake, Urk was about to close her eyes, accepting her fate. Suddenly, Urk saw the wolves being paralyzed and killed simultaneously. Emerging from the thick dust was Art, running towards her with a worried look. Art was grateful that Urk was safe and not heavily injured. Thinking she had been saved once again, Urk apologized to Art for not being strong enough. Art tried to console Urk and tend to her wounds, but she dismissed her injuries. Seeing Urk alive and well, Tet felt relieved as he ran towards her. Learning of a supposed emergency meeting at the guild, Urk and Art immediately left the orphanage. While passing through what was left of the city, Art noticed an injured knight on the ground. When Art saw a vice captain carrying his injured comrade, he handed them a salve, thinking it would help with their injuries. When asked about his identity, Art responded that he was only an ordinary butler and excused himself afterward. Urk smiled after seeing Art's kindness to anyone he wanted to help. After some time, Art and Urk were already at the guild auditorium. Peters called every guild member's attention before giving the stage to Art. After Art introduced himself, he revealed during his investigation that the Black Locust invasion rate was much faster than anticipated, expecting them to arrive at Firen in approximately 3 days. Art's sudden news caused panic and chaos within the guild, as there was not enough time for them to defend. Annoyed by the commotion, Peter slammed his fist onto the wall, reminding everyone of the urgent situation and asking them to quiet down and listen. Amazed by Peter's authority, Art informed everyone of his plan to use his magic-infused lemon water to keep the insects at bay. Some were amazed by Art's plan, but they were now curious about how to subjugate the locusts. Art revealed a way to subjugate them by presenting one to the guild along with a magic ore. In his experiments, Art discovered that a black locust ingesting minerals has an effect on its shell. When Art fed the locust with a magic ore, everyone was surprised when it kept twitching until it died. Peters informed everyone that black locusts do not have the right organs to digest mana. Since they are intolerant to it, this meant that magic ores are poison to the black locusts. When Art told everyone that his plan would maximize their chances of avoiding a battle and exterminating a large portion of black locusts, he was surprised as everyone fell silent. Suddenly, Art was bombarded with compliments from every member of the guild. Urk did not escape the mountain of compliments when Art mentioned that Urk and Leah caused the breakthrough they needed. As everyone regained their hope, Peters reminded them to prepare themselves since the decisive battle would be in 3 days. Art was already receiving so much strength from Urk just by being by his side. As the swarm of black locusts was about to reach the city, Art vowed that no matter what happens, he would definitely protect Urk. As the Royal Knights, led by Commander Marcos, prepared themselves, the citizens handed each of them flowers as a token of their appreciation. At the city walls, Urk and Art oversaw the knights and realized that the time had finally come for war. Urk apologized to Art for dragging him into the fight. Art smiled and told Urk that she didn't need to apologize since he would do anything to help her. Urk was surprised when she saw the Firen orphans greeting her. As Urk reminded them that it was not safe and instructed them to return to the refuge at the family estate, she felt glad and happy when the orphans handed her a good luck charm. The nun then explained that the children could no longer be stopped as they wished to give Urk the charm. Urk hugged the children and promised them that they would play again once she comes back. Since the war council was about to begin, Urk asked the kids to return to the estate. Seeing how sweet the kids were, Art was confused when Urk found it a miracle seeing them laugh now. Urk explained that the kids were disaster orphans and victims of abuse, abductions, and monster assaults. Urk personally supported their orphanage as it was experiencing some financial difficulties. Remembering how she first met Urk, Art was sure that the kids were glad meeting Urk. Their conversation was cut off when the Order of Knights arrived and the War Council was about to begin. As Peters explained their plan, he then introduced the leaders to everyone, starting from Urk as the Outlook Squad leader, Commander Marcos as the Diversionary Squad leader, Art as the Ambush Squad leader, and Ramon for the rearguard sweepers. After the War Council for the decisive battle had ended, the knights ate, drank, and enjoyed their night before the war began. Seeing everyone having fun, Urk revealed that it was Peter's treat as he told everyone that it might be their last day. Art noticed that Frey looked like he was in a rush after they talked to him. Urk responded that Frey was headed west with the rest of the cavalry unit. Art was somewhat reassured after learning that Ramon and Tet were participating in the war since they were once former high-ranking adventurers. When Urk mentioned how dangerous the Queen Locust was, Art stood up and grabbed Urk. Art told Urk that there was a place that he wanted to show her. Urk was confused when Art brought her to a crystal firefly breeding ground. Knowing that they had different roles, Art apologized to Urk for not fighting side by side. When Urk asked Art if he was going to single-handedly defeat the Queen Locust, Art was caught off guard and responded that she was correct. Knowing that Art would defeat the Queen Locust no matter what, Urk grabbed Art's clothes with worry. Art asked Urk if she still remembered what they talked about on the terrace. Art expressed how happy he was when Urk accepted him for who he was. Art wished that he could be by Urk's side during her happy days, as it was the first time he genuinely felt like he wanted to protect someone. Urk was surprised when Art suddenly hugged her and apologized for making her worry. Art mentioned that he was a butler, and it was his life's purpose to do his very best for his master even if it would cost his life. Surrounded by the crystal fireflies, Art promised that he would return to Urk by her side. The feelings Art kept close to his heart ignited a flame of hope in his chest. Art hoped that Urk might be blessed with overflowing happiness with his determination as a butler. It was thanks to Princess Leia, who prepared large quantities of magic ores and wheat flour, that the subjugation of the Black Locust was a huge success. Now, the remaining task for Art was to finish off the last few. The members of the guild, along with their guildmaster Peters, were handling the Black Locusts. Ramon and Urk noticed the smoke signal and hoped that Art would finish off the Queen Locust. Art, hiding in the bushes, saw that everyone had succeeded in dividing the Locust's numbers. Knowing that all he had to do was defeat the Queen Locust, Art remained cautious, aware that attempting to break through with magic would be futile against the wall of Black Locusts. Wishing that the people who had supported him were by his side at the moment, Art knew it was not possible, and that he had to do it by himself. As the Black Locusts slowly dispersed, the Queen Locust revealed itself, alarming both Art and Peters. Surprised, Ramon immediately instructed everyone to get down. One attack from the Class S Queen Locust wiped out a large portion of the forest, and the explosion reached the kingdom. Covered in rubble and piles of rocks, the knights immediately alerted the medics as there were many wounded. Art, who did not expect such power from the Queen Locust, hoped that everyone was okay and had survived the attack. Art was surprised when he could no longer see the Queen Locust in the sky. Everyone was frozen in fear as huge monsters now appeared in front of them. Seeing such dangerous monsters made Art think that the giant bear and the other monsters that showed up in the raid were nothing more than the Queen's test runs. As Art pulled his sword, he vowed to save everyone with his own hands. Inside the home of the Imperial family, Leah reassured King Drad that everything was fine. King Drad then requested Leah to sing him a song as he felt pathetic being ill and bedridden during a crucial time for his kingdom. Thinking that her father still somewhat acted like a child, Leah agreed to King Drad's request to sing him a song and reassured him that her supposed future spouse, the world's strongest butler, was at the war fighting for everyone. As Princess Leah started singing for her father, Art began decapitating each of the monster's heads and limbs. With swift movements, Art could produce multiple slashes in just a few seconds. As Art became more focused on annihilating the monsters, Urk prayed for Art's safety. Ramon asked Urk to stay alert as there was already a swarm of monsters near them. The soldiers felt fear after seeing the numbers of the monsters that had shown up. However, Urk gave them the guidance and fighting spirit needed to fight back against the monsters in front of them. With commands coming from Urk, they were able to put the monsters at bay. Urk was grateful for learning the art of war at an early age, as it had proved to be advantageous to them. Ramon was glad that Urk stayed in the fort with them, but when Urk responded that it was her wish to stay, Ramon asked her why she was lying. Confused at what Ramon was talking about, Urk received wisdom from Ramon and was told that the most important thing was to look within herself and never lie about her own feelings. Ramon and Tet asked Urk to follow her heart and leave the defending to them. Urk's wish was to protect her beloved city and its people. To make that wish come true, Urk gave everything she had. However, she knew that she did not possess the strength like the veteran warriors. The war was something they must win to protect Firen, and art was the core of the strategy. Urk knew that she did not have the power to do it alone, yet she still wished to be Art's strength. Not wanting to lie to those dearest to her, Urk wanted to protect them, even if just by providing support. Urk then asked Ramon for permission to go to the front lines as she wanted to protect the city with the person she cherished the most. Ramon smiled and suggested to Urk to get away as far as she can since the Queen Locust was now right above them. Art later noticed that the Queen Locust was headed straight for their stronghold. While eradicating the monsters on the battlefield, Art knew that he needed to hurry, as the Queen Locust was headed for their stronghold. However, he also had to somehow protect the diversionary squad. All Art could do for the time being was to pray that Urk would be safe. With the Queen Locust's presence in front of them, the knights immediately called an emergency, as the Queen Locust was tearing them apart. Surprised by the Queen Locust's strength, the mages asked everyone not to move forward fearlessly as they cast and threw ranged spells at the Queen Locust. Unfortunately, their magic did not even reach the Queen Locust, as it was just nullified. Hearing a loud sound behind the Queen Locust, Urk wondered if it was another spell. Ramon then told everyone that they may not have to worry anymore as Commander Marcos has arrived to help them. As Commander Marcos apologized for being late, he vowed to vanquish the calamity that threatens their kingdom. Commander Marcos swung his sword, causing a huge shockwave. As the area was now covered in thick dust, Urk wondered if Commander Marcos succeeded. However, she was surprised upon seeing Commander Marcos being impaled. As Art was getting tired of killing the monsters, he still couldn't decide if he had to leave the diversionary squad. When a monster was about to hit Art, he was surprised and fortunate that Peters came to save him. When Art heard a familiar voice, he immediately turned around and saw Frey along with the other royal knights. Realizing that what Commander Marcos had told them before was correct, Frey instructed the knights to prepare themselves as they were now going to join the war. While Peters, Frey, and the rest of the royal knights handled the monsters on the battlefield, Art was told to head over to the Queen Locust. Art was still unsure if it was the right idea, but Peters gave him an order to go as he does not want to look after a kid like him. Frey then reminded Art of how powerful his primordial magic was, and that he was no longer needed on the battlefield. As the other members of the guard were slowly showing up, Peters told Art that he was not fighting alone and that he was not the only one fighting and protecting the city. After observing his surroundings, Art finally realized Peters' words and agreed to head to the Queen Locust and fight alongside the person he cherished the most. Determined to defeat the Queen Locust, Art, along with everyone else, promised that they would come back home alive. While Art ran as fast as he could to the Queen Locust, Urk herself was the only one left standing and fighting the Queen Locust. Finally experiencing the power of an S-class monster, Urk knew that a moment of hesitation could mean death. Though she was gambling with an uncertain outcome, Urk did not care as she had made up her mind to fight and protect the kingdom where her cherished ones live. Hitting the Queen Locust with all the strength she had, Urk promised to never surrender. When the Queen Locust countered her attack and threw her off balance, Urk was becoming frustrated as she still wanted to fight and did not want to lose. While remembering Art's smile, the Queen Locust took the opportunity and attacked Urk while unable to defend. Fortunately for Urk, Art arrived just in time to catch her while blocking the Queen Locust's attack simultaneously. As Art apologized for being late, Urk was surprised and curious why Art was at the stronghold. Urk's tears ran down after hearing that he came to serve her as her shield as it was a butler's duty. When the Queen Locust tried attacking Art's back, Art immediately noticed it and cut off the Queen Locust's limb. He then asked Urk to defeat the Queen Locust together. Urk cautioned Art that approaching the Queen Locust casually was risky, as its praying arms had the power to nullify magic. Art directed Urk to strike the Queen Locust when an opening appeared, while he attempted to create a path. Despite the Queen Locust's multiple slashing attacks, Art successfully blocked them all while steadily advancing. When the Queen Locust seized an opportunity to strike Urk with a powerful attack, Art foresaw the move and evaded it. Taking advantage of the Queen Locust's missed attack, Urk seized the opportunity and delivered a solid blow to the Queen Locust. Urk marveled at Art's incredible skill, disrupting the Queen Locust's rhythm with just a feint. Enraged, the Queen Locust charged at them. Art capitalized on the Queen Locust's rampage, reading its movements with precision. Observing Art and the Queen Locust simultaneously attacking and defending, Urk was amazed at the equal exchanges, thinking she would find another opportunity to strike. However, Art and the Queen Locust's battle surpassed her comprehension. During their clash, the Queen Locust summoned a swarm of black locusts as their weapons clashed. Recognizing the Queen Locust's momentarily lowered guard, Art swiftly used his skill, Air Rending Wave, to disrupt the Queen Locust. As thick dust covered the area, Art decided to charge at the Queen Locust. Fortunately, he spotted the Queen Locust's attack and dodged just in time. Urk was surprised that the Queen Locust still had a move up her sleeve, feeling an immense fear and questioning if it was just an illusion. Art warned Urk of an impending threat, and she trembled with fear. When the Queen Locust revealed a new form, Art and Urk became more cautious, anticipating its full power. Art signaled Urk about an incoming attack and leaped to dodge the beams from the Queen Locust. Recognizing the Queen Locust's new attack pattern, Urk realized that Art's advantageous counterattack was sealed. When the Queen Locust spotted an opening and launched a beam, Art froze, anticipating a hit. Fortunately, Urk leaped in front, saving him from the Queen Locust's attack. Urk proposed a plan to bridge the gap, with her serving as a decoy for Art to land a decisive blow. Art was surprised by Urk's plan, but witnessing her determination, he smiled and made a request. Art asked Urk to command him to defeat the Queen Locust, recalling how her words had transformed him before. Hugging Urk, he expressed that her words alone gave him courage and begged her to command him, not wanting to see her get hurt. Remembering their promise, Urk gathered her strength and commanded Art to defeat the Queen Locust. Accepting the command, Art used a physique boost enchantment. Bathed in a bright light from the sky, Art transformed, and with his new appearance, he used the Zenith Sword skill, Single Word Cleave, to cut the Queen Locust in half. As Art's attack left a massive mark on the ground, Urk witnessed the Queen Locust's demise and knew they had finally won. Seeing Art collapse, she dropped her sword and ran towards him immediately. After the decisive battle, Art was back serving Urk at the Isfeel family estate. When Urk asked about Art's status, he reassured her that he was fine, thanks to her. Despite Art's reassurances, Urk doubted his words since he couldn't move until yesterday due to the magic's backlash. Art continued to reassure Urk, explaining that he was now fine because he had consumed a ton of emergency potion made through alchemy. Alchemy, a life magic, combines materials to create something new. Urk expressed gratitude for the potions Art made as Commander Marcos and Urk recovered fast after drinking them. When Urk asked Ramon what he wanted to discuss, everyone was surprised when it was revealed that Art was being granted nobility. Confused about the meaning, it was later explained to Art that after defeating the S-class monster and saving the kingdom, he had received a reward. Princess Leia was still upset, as they had only given Art the title of Baron and not Viscount. Art was still somewhat puzzled after receiving the good news, but all he could think of was that he was now the same as Urk and Wenty. Art smiled and finally accepted that what he had accomplished indeed was enough for him to warrant such a reward. Happy to learn that Art was now a noble, Urk was surprised when all the cookies suddenly vanished. Ramon mentioned that they could have more cookies prepared, but they needed flour and sugar. Ruger comes from sugar flowers, and sugar is a luxury to have. Due to the effects of the black locusts, the prices of sugar have skyrocketed. They had hoped to mass-produce sugar. Unfortunately, monsters and insects were still in the way. Everyone was surprised when Urk suddenly told them that she has a solution for the sugar problem. When asked what the solution was, Art mentioned that he would just be using alchemy. After Urk asked for the sugar flower farmers to gather, Art then introduced himself and immediately started the sugar flower persuasion operation. Art then presented to everyone the fertilizer locusts. By feeding them ore that had been improved through alchemy using properties of the black locusts, the fertilizer locusts transformed from pests that ate crops into beneficial insects that produce fertilizer. After hearing Art's explanation, the sugar flower farmer introduced himself before crying in front of Art as he saw him as a good man. The farmers then wished to cooperate, willing to pay whatever it takes. Art refused their money and only wanted an agreement from the farmers to share until they could stabilize the supply. Urk then floated the idea of hot springs to everyone. When Art mentioned that they can create it using alchemy, the farmers showed interest and wished to join as well. After finalizing the plans, Art wanted to confirm with Urk if the orphanage was still selling potions, as they would need it to make the hot spring. At the orphanage, they were greeted by Sister Rax. After Art introduced himself, Urk then told Rax that she would place a recurring order for her potions. Rax wondered if she would be fine since the potion cost 200 each. When Urk showed interest in buying potions that Rax currently had in stock, Rax was worried that the common people wouldn't be able to understand the use of potions. When Art shared that he once drank 10 potions every day, Sister Rax was surprised since drinking too much potion would lead to addiction, and in the worst-case scenario, he could die. When Art noticed that the potion was a high-density potion, he was curious why it was sold so cheap. When Sister Rax revealed that she was a dark elf, Art felt bad as he forgot that dark elves were discriminated against just because they're said to be close to the devil. When Sister Rax mentioned that merchants would say that products made by dark elves were disgusting, Urk was annoyed after learning what Sister Rax was going through and asked for the names of the merchants, so that she could teach them a lesson. The kids in the orphanage called for Sister Rax's attention as they were now hungry and complained that there was another leak in the roof. As Sister Rax promised to fix the roof, she told Art and Urk that she did not care what others would say about her since all she wanted was just to protect the kids. Art and Urk were surprised when they saw Sister Rax's appearance suddenly change. Art then offered help in fixing things in the orphanage. After some time, Art gathered everyone in the bathhouse as he presented to everyone the hot spring he was about to make using alchemy. Mixing the elements and ingredients all together, Art was able to create a high potion bubble bath. While Urk and the others were being captivated by the bubbles produced in the hot spring, Art then informed everyone that the room was for the ladies, and that they were now headed to another room. Urk then complimented Art as he had outdone himself once again. As the ladies tested the hot spring, they took their clothes off and soaked themselves in the warmth of the hot spring. The men had already tested the hot spring themselves, which the ladies noticed as they overheard them from the other room. Sister Rax was surprised since she has never met someone as kind as Art. When Urk shared Art's qualities, she was startled when Sister Rax accurately guessed that Urk was in love. Sister Rax gave Urk advice to be more confident in supporting Art since he was a wonderful person. Noticing that Urk was not the only one who was after Art, Sister Rax informed Urk that she would be accepting the potion request. As everyone was relaxing and enjoying their time in the hot spring, a mysterious man was holding Art's photo as he was so eager to get a hold of Art. While everyone was having a pleasant conversation, they suddenly received a visitor. The man then introduced himself as Flaverick, the owner of the Eternal Shop in the royal capital. Ramon asked what Flaverick's purpose in visiting them was, but before they discussed the purpose of his visit, Flaverick gave them many gifts. When Ramon asked about the reason for the gifts, Flaverick mentioned that he had heard about Art's powers and thought that he could be beneficial for business. Flaverick, captivated by the magnificent things Art created, even called it a work of God. When Urk told Flaverick that Art had no intention of using his power to make money, he was immediately disappointed. Art then asked Flaverick about the reason he started his business. Flaverick dramatically revealed his past experiences and portrayed the tragic ending of his mother and her request. As Flaverick tried to persuade Art with his words, Ramon immediately intervened and asked him to declare how much of the profit they would be getting, and state the rights concisely. Seeing how direct Ramon was, Flaverick did not expect less from the former minister. When Flaverick suggested a 50% share, Ramon immediately realized that Art's power would mostly be used. He raised the share to 90%, and the rights would be transferred to them. As Ramon suggested for Flaverick to back off and not drag Art, Flaverick pulled out a letter, making Ramon think of a threat. Flaverick explained that the letter was not about the Isfiel family but rather a secret of Art. He then threatened Art that if the secret gets out, it would damage the Isfiel family. Ramon had enough of Flaverick and showed him a second letter. After informing Flaverick that the letter was anonymous, Flaverick's expression darkened as the letter was definitive. Seeing the letter containing a confession of how Flaverick paid someone to get the information, Flaverick accused the letter as made up and not true. However, Ramon was not having it, and told him that he had already checked the facts. Ramon told Flaverick that he would overlook his disrespect towards him. But for threatening Art, Ramon asked Flaverick if he wished to be eradicated along with his entire clan. Flaverick immediately bowed down as he accepted his defeat. Thinking that Art was almost dazzled by his magic, Flaverick was surprised when Art was glad that Flaverick's mother was still alive. As Art empathized with Flaverick, Ramon strictly told him not to easily forgive those who have wronged him. Art knew that being lied to hurts, but he knew that people who will be treated kindly can only feel truly forgiven. After Art read the letter, he told Urk that he immediately had to go to the capital. Art knew that there was only one person who knew his information. As he knocked on the door, Art greeted Wenty in his room. Curious as to how Art found him, Art revealed that it was Flaverick. When Art asked Wenty if it was her that wrote the letter, Wenty responded that it was not her and accused Art of ruining her life. Wenty stopped when she saw Art smiled and asked if he understood that she hated him. Art asked Wenty why she gave Flaverick's money to the information broker if she really hated him. When Art noticed the dress he made for her before, Wenty screamed at Art and asked for him to leave. Wenty was surprised when Art mentioned that he does not bear any grudges towards her. Art then shared that he knew it was Wenty who spread the information, and realized that she also lied in some parts, as Art's scar on his left shoulder was not a slave mark, but a burn when he was a kid. Wenty was speechless when Art mentioned that it made him happy when Wenty considered him as family. Wenty could no longer hold her emotions and hugged Art as she cried and apologized to him. Wenty kept apologizing for abusing him and taking advantage. After Art apologized, he then told Wenty that he now wanted to support the person he cherished the most, Urk. Hearing those words from Art, Wenty cried her heart out. At the outskirts of Aldred, a lone figure stood in the rain. A woman holding a staff assessed that the erosion in the area was progressing and believed that the place was hopeless. Back at the orphanage, Huey was growing frustrated because the strong rain was becoming a hindrance for them. The Sword of the Blue Sky was surprised by Art's sudden visit, while Art was also surprised since he did not expect Huey and the others to be at the orphanage. Huey revealed that they visit the orphanage regularly and donate parts of their guild rewards. When Art was asked where Urk currently was, Art responded that Urk was not feeling well. After visiting Wenty in her apartment, Art was surprised when he saw Urk. Realizing that he had made Urk worry, Art apologized to her. After learning the truth from her grandfather, Urk had become restless and decided to follow Art. Art had not planned to visit Wenty. However, he could not sit still knowing that someone who had once helped him was in trouble. Art then reassured Urk that he only visited to fulfill his duty, also reassuring Urk that he was still her butler. When Art was asked about the identity of the people he was with, he introduced Flaverick, the merchant, first and his former master, Wenty, afterward. The Sword of the Blue Sky was not pleased upon hearing that Wenty was in front of them. Seeing the nun for the first time, Flaverick could not help but praise her beauty. Wenty then spoke up, admitting that she had committed many sins against Art and others. To atone for her sins, Wenty had visited the orphanage to redeem herself for the rest of her life. After listening to Wenty, everyone's expressions suddenly changed. The Sword of the Blue Sky then directed their displeased expressions toward Flaverick, when Wenty revealed that Flaverick had tried to ruin Art. Accepting both Flaverick and Wenty, the nun forgave them for their sins and asked that they clean themselves first before having a meal. When the nun asked Art for a favor to make a hot spring, Art immediately created one without hesitation. The Sword of the Blue Sky and Flaverick were happy as they felt their fatigue fade away. The nun then noticed that the plates were now empty and guessed that the children had eaten all the snacks. When Art asked if they still had anything left, the nun responded that they only had new rice remaining. Art asked if they could use the new rice, to which Huey told Art that it was not something one could eat. Art informed everyone that there was a delicious way of preparing the new rice. After hammering the new rice and stretching it out, Art explained that he had discovered the cooking method in foreign literature, a cooking method that was not widely known. A young child then approached Wenty, asking her if they could do the cooking together. Wenty was hesitant at first, but with the encouragement of the Sword of the Blue Sky and Art, she no longer felt alone. Seeing Art stretching his hand out to her, Wenty realized that she still had a place in the world. Everyone then shared a laugh, enjoying their time making new rice mochi. After tasting the mochi, everyone could not help but praise not just Art, but the food as well. Noticing how Wenty was eating the food in a hurry, Flaverick told her that her actions were unbecoming. Art warned Wenty that she might choke if she continued to eat so quickly, but then he noticed that she was crying. Huey, who did not understand the emotions Wenty was experiencing, assumed that she wanted to eat as much as she could because the mochi was so delicious. Wenty then explained that the reason she was crying was that she had believed she would never be able to taste Art's cooking again. Art tried to calm Wenty down, assuring her that he would come back again and cook for them. Hearing someone munching beside him, Flaverick was startled to see a little girl. Curious, Art asked who the young girl was. The nun welcomed the young girl back and introduced her as Rain. The nun explained that Rain was her sister. After Art introduced himself, Rain started circling him and remarked that his magical power was immense and unfathomable. Although Art possessed a vast amount of magical power, Rain pointed out that it was also shallow. Art became nervous as he sensed a mysterious aura around Rain, one that was deep like the sea. The nun apologized for Rain's behavior, informing everyone that Rain was known as the Rainwater Magician down at the port. Flaverick was surprised to hear Rain's nickname. Among adventurers, there was no one who did not know about the legendary S-rank adventurer, the Rainwater Magician. Both Art and Flaverick were amazed to meet someone so incredible. After playing with the kids, the nun asked Rain why she had come to the orphanage again. Rain, who was on a journey chasing a certain monster, explained that the monster happened to be nearby, so she decided to pay a visit to the orphanage. When Art asked Rain what monster she was chasing, Rain responded that it was an X-Wood. While Art had no clue what an X-Wood was, Flaverick, on the other hand, felt that the name sounded familiar. When Wenty commented that they should leave the monster alone, she felt insulted when Rain called her a peace junkie. As Flaverick finally remembered what the X-Wood was, a kid interrupted their conversation, announcing that he had found something weird. When the nun noticed the seed the kid was holding, she mentioned that she did not remember planting a seed in that spot. Examining the seed herself, Rain identified it as the seed of an X-Wood. A looming new crisis is starting in the Yukewood Gorge country, as confirmed by the emergence of the giant tree. The giant tree emerges across the continent, and the nearby cities of the Drad Kingdom issued emergency evacuation orders due to the tree's rapid growth. As Art, Rain, and the others went on a journey, Rain then warned Art that he might get some stomach pain since the magical essence of the forest is quite dense. Hearing the grumbling sound of Rain's stomach, Urk then offered Rain some rations. When Frey asked about the situation, Frey was informed that the treeification had been confirmed in all nearby cities, and monster sightings were being reported in the vicinity. Art still could not believe that the forest they were in used to be a city. Rain then responded that it was all because of the X-Wood, as it is spreading its damage far and wide. Rain then told everyone that an X-Wood is an S-rank monster that has existed since ancient times. The monster parasitizes trees and other monsters, attacking people along its path. The X-Wood is also Rain's archenemy for the last 436 years. The group then found an X-Wood seed along their path. At the center of the continental treeification, there is said to be an X-Wood seed. Looking closely at the seed's roots, everyone saw how the roots were extending in a certain direction. The group then theorized that the place they were in was the X-Wood stronghold. The captain then mentioned that odd reports were coming in that several people found themselves outside of the forest without even realizing it. Even though the phenomenon was indeed strange, the group was still relieved that there were no casualties among the personnel. Art was starting to worry as he could not explain why there was so little damage when they were up against a dangerous monster. Art then shared his theory with everyone, thinking that the X-Wood's objective might not be to invade them. When Art mentioned how he preferred that no one would fight, Rain suddenly cast an ice needle near Art and informed Art that monsters must be destroyed with no exceptions. Art did not agree with Rain, as he did not see the point in destroying something without hostile intent. Art was then told that his softness and sentimentality would not save anyone. While Urk was trying to make Rain understand Art, they were interrupted by Frey, informing them that they should brace themselves. In just a matter of seconds, the whole place was then covered in thick mist. Based on the reports, the last memory everyone had was the mist descending. Worried for Urk, Art then informs Urk to stay close to him. Seeing how brave Urk was, Frey praises her for it. However, Rain notices something and uses magic to attack Urk. Shocked, Frey asks Rain what she was trying to do. Rain then tells Frey to open his eyes clearly, as the silhouette he believed to be Urk is an X-Wood. Everyone then realizes that they've been separated, as they are now individually facing an X-Wood. When Frey mentions that they've fallen for the X-Wood's trap, Rain responds that it is actually the opposite, as it saved them the trouble of searching for the X-Wood. With one spell from Rain, she wipes out all of the monsters that were in the mist. Witnessing the power of a legendary S-rank for himself, Frey guesses that his expertise may not be needed after all. Meanwhile, Art has also swiftly eliminated the monsters. Art observes the monster and realizes that an X-Wood seed is on the monster's head. Art is able to tell that the monsters are just trying to intimidate them, but since there is no end to the monsters, Art then hurriedly looks for Urk. As Art wonders if he and the others are okay, he accidentally stumbles upon a huge tree. Art becomes confused as he does not remember seeing the tree before. All of a sudden, Art hears a voice informing him to leave. Revealing itself to be a huge wood-like creature, the X-Wood warns Art that if he does not leave, then he will pay the ultimate price. Seeing the X-Wood up close, Art is still surprised that it can speak their language. Sensing a lack of resistance from the X-Wood, Art decides to remove his hand from his sword. As the X-Wood is about to attack Art, it suddenly stops and asks why Art does not resist. Art believes that the X-Wood does not want to attack or kill their people. Since the X-Wood remains silent, Art guesses that his theory is correct and that the X-Wood is just controlling the monsters with its seeds. As Art feels no malice from the X-Wood's actions, he asks for the reason. Intrigued, the X-Wood asks Art what his purpose is. After introducing himself, Art then informs the X-Wood that he has come to negotiate, as they suspected the X-Wood to be involved in the anomalies. Art then asks for the X-Wood to withdraw itself from the continent. After listening to Art's request, X-Wood could not believe that a human would demand such a thing from him. Making it clear that he is serious, Art mentioned that he understands that X-Wood has no plans to kill anyone and can even understand human speech. When Art asks X-Wood if it has rejected their offer, X-Wood lets out a roar, calling Art a fool for making an unreasonable request. After informing Art that their plan was just a desperate plea for mercy, Art responded that he was not begging for his life to be spared, reassuring X-Wood that he would not lose against it. Art clarified that he simply chose to negotiate so that X-Wood would also not force things through with violence. When Art realized that X-Wood had taken his bait, Art then told X-Wood that he could offer a better solution and could make it happen. Before sharing his plan, Art asked X-Wood for its goal, as he believed that it was a fair exchange if X-Wood wished to know Art's solution. Agreeing to Art's terms, X-Wood shared his story, where he had transferred from a different world, the ancient continent of Doryoku. In X-Wood's world, the balance was broken by war, which made X-Wood decide to transfer through the spirit tree, Falbrav. Art was familiar with Falbrav, as it is the largest world tree in the center of the continent. When Art asked for the reason why X-Wood came to the continent, It responded that it was for the survival of its kind. Xwood came to the continent to find a place where they could live. Listening to Xwood, Art realized that the ancient being had taken on the responsibility of ensuring their species' survival, and came to the continent to secure a place for them. Art understood the Xwood's intentions. However, he pointed out that the residents are now suffering and asked for the Xwood to stop turning the town into a forest. Xwood also pointed out to Art that humans cut down trees and claim the land for their own. From Xwood's experience, humans are just incredibly arrogant, and such arrogance breeds conflict. Art could not look Xwood straight in the eye, as he himself knew that what the Xwood mentioned was true, and that the Xwood had always been the ones to suffer. Art still wishes for their two species to coexist and to end their endless fight. After informing Xwood that it cannot get what it wants by just arguing, Art then asks that they search for a way for them to live together. However, the Xwood only felt insulted after listening to Art, thinking that Art does not understand its suffering and hatred. Left with no other choice but to fight, Art then drew his sword and slashed parts of the Xwood. Art pleaded with the Xwood not to let him draw his sword again, as he promised that the Xwood would die next. When the Xwood mentioned that it no longer had the time and power to deal with Art, Art then held the Xwood's branch and asked it to try to coexist. The Xwood was puzzled as to why Art was siding with the monsters. It did not matter to Art whose side he was on as long as everyone would be saved. When the Xwood asked Art what made him think he would be worthy of trust, Art then bravely informed the Xwood to plant a seed in him, and he would serve as the intermediary between the two species. While Frey was calling out for someone, Rain remembered her horrifying past. In the Falbrav Great Forest, Rain and her parents were having a wonderful time when Rain's father suddenly slapped her sister, reminding her how dangerous humans could be. Rain's parents were devout followers of the Elven religion, and the teachings and rules were absolute. Rain was then engulfed in fear as she witnessed how her home was being consumed by fire. When Rain and her sister tried to find their parents, they were shocked to see their bloody corpses nearby. From that point, Rain vowed that she would not forgive those who had caused them harm. With no home to return to, Rain and her sister walked on, driven by the goal of destroying all monsters. After some time, Rain became known in the town and was frequently asked for her help. Not wanting anyone else to suffer, Rain then used her magic for the sole purpose of eradicating the monsters. When Rain visited the orphanage before, her sister pleaded with her to stop fighting. However, Rain was no longer listening and was only focused on killing more monsters. Rain then told her sister that she had finally found the monster that ruined their lives, vowing that she would kill all the monsters and not leave a single one alive. When the Xwood saw Art's resolve, it was impressed. However, the Xwood still refused Art's proposition. The Xwood explained that it had already accepted its place, and that there was no need to create unnecessary conflict. Sharing the truth with Art was the Xwood's way of showing respect for the resolve that Art had shown. When Art asked for the cause of the Xwood's weakening power, the Xwood revealed that a magician who had been relentlessly pursuing it for eternity was the cause of its diminishing strength. Listening to the Xwood, Art was able to deduce that the person the Xwood was referring to was none other than Rain. Hearing the rumbling sounds all around, Art immediately noticed that the fog surrounding them had vanished and that Rain was now flying. Rain asked Art to move as she planned to kill the Xwood. However, Rain didn't expect that Art would position himself between her and the Xwood. When Rain asked Art what he was doing, Art tried to make Rain understand that the Xwood did not come to their world to invade it, but Rain didn't care and still planned on killing the creature. Rain tried launching an attack but was immediately stopped by Art's sword skill. Rain warned Art to stop interfering as she did not want to create pointless corpses. Not expecting the power that Rain had, Art had to use his full strength just to block the attack. Art once again tried to make Rain understand that the Xwood did not intend to fight anyone and only wanted a place of its own. When Art asked Rain why she was so desperate to kill the creature, Rain revealed that it was the Xwood that killed her parents 463 years ago and burned down the forest they had lived in. The Xwood realized that Rain was referring to the Great Fire and understood that Rain was blaming it for the incident. Rain told Art that he was being too idealistic and that the world they lived in was born from conflict, a cycle that would always repeat, a never-ending conflict. The Xwood admitted that it was present during the Great Fire. However, it stated that it was not the one who set the forest ablaze. Rain's patience reached its limit as she increased her power, creating pressure that Art could feel. Rain then praised Art for keeping the Xwood in the forest, saying it had taken her some time to trace the magical residue. When the Xwood heard Rain, it assumed that Art had plotted to stall it. Displeased at having placed its trust in a human, the Xwood informed Art and Rain that it would now take their lives for meddling in its affairs. In just a matter of seconds, the entire forest shook as the Xwood unearthed its massive body, making everyone realize that it was a being no one could ever hope to defeat. Using its breath alone, the Xwood intimidated the humans who witnessed its full appearance. However, Rain was not fazed by it. As the X-Wood launched its attack, Rain cast her own spell called Imperial Water and launched it at the X-Wood, causing the creature to be blown away. However, the X-Wood still had so much power that it continued to attack Rain, making Art worry. As the battle became more intense, the tide seemed to shift in Rain's favor as she was not just blocking the X-Wood's attacks but also creating counterattacks. When Rain had cornered the X-Wood, she released a powerful spell called Dark Descent Great Waterfall. As Rain displayed the prowess of the world's strongest magician, she did not expect that the X-Wood would still try to attack after being drowned by her spell. However, Rain was able to block the attack and planned to end the X-Wood as she began setting up another powerful spell. Seeing the huge spell in the sky, Art wondered where the X-Wood had gone. Rain gave the X-Wood a chance to reveal itself, mentioning that hiding would not help it. Planning to draw out the X-Wood, Rain used the spell Rain of Condemnation and unleashed it all over the forest. Art, who was also in the forest, was trying his best to block Rain's attack. Seeing how Rain's judgment had been clouded by her rage towards the X-Wood, Art decided to stop Rain from destroying everything and hoped that Urk was safe somewhere. Meanwhile, Urk was also trying to look for Art while dodging Rain's spell. Just as Urk was about to get hit by Rain's spell, Frey appeared in the nick of time and blocked the attack using his spell Ice Blossom. When the two siblings finally met again, Urk asked what was going on. Frey guessed that Rain was fighting with the X-Wood. Sensing the magical essence, Frey also guessed that Art was there. Seeing his ice wall being broken, Frey could not believe the power Rain possessed, as his ice wall had never been broken by anyone other than Art. The others could only hope for Art's safety. Using his speed, Art was able to reach Rain's blind spot. However, Art's attack was easily blocked. Art pleaded with Rain to stop, but Rain only told Art not to get in her way. Casting another spell, Rain successfully drew the X-Wood out, as it launched a counterattack. However, Rain easily sliced through the X-Wood's attacks. Using a high detection spell, Rain was able to locate the X-Wood's whereabouts and charged right at it. To her surprise, Rain did not expect Art to block her attack. Puzzled, the X-Wood asked Art what he was doing. Rain informed Art that killing the X-Wood would be her salvation, and that her actions would save many lives. However, Art did not see it that way and could only foresee destruction from Rain's plans. Rain then told Art that her actions would also be salvation for him, as she believed that the X-Wood had corrupted him since he was now putting the things he wanted to protect in danger. Art clarified to Rain that he had not been corrupted, and that he simply could not stand by and watch people fight or get hurt. As Rain continued to release her spells, she noticed how Art was slashing through all of her spells with high precision, leading her to believe that Art might be stronger than an ordinary swordsman. As Art's self-righteousness began to annoy Rain, he mentioned that being righteous was his way of keeping his promise to someone important to him, that he would never lie again. Rain was surprised when Art used enhanced magic. Seeing that the weapon is an electrification type, Rain knows that letting her guard down would mean that she would be completely paralyzed. As Art tried to attack Rain's back again, Rain felt underestimated since Art only used a scabbard for his sneak attack. Rain explained that the reason why Art's attack was not reaching her was because of the spell Causality Magic. It is a spell that Rain had set up with a condition to fight monsters with her own blood. The strength of Rain's resolve makes the spell stronger. Upon learning that the spell itself would lead to Rain's certain death, Art asks Rain why she would go that far. Rain revealed that it was her vow to kill all monsters and whoever got in her way would be eliminated. When Art was told that he is forcing his kindness on others, Art admits that it may be the case. However, his kindness was also his resolve and he will keep showing kindness as long as people can be saved by it. When Urk and Art finally meet up, Rain then tells Art to prove his kindness to her by protecting the people he cares about. As Rain launched an attack towards Art and the others, they did not expect the X-Wood to get in between them and block the attack. Art smiles as he had finally convinced the X-Wood of his resolve. Seeing how the X-Wood and Art were protecting each other, Rain thought that they were selfish. After losing so much, Rain asks why the X-Wood has to survive. Art understands that Rain is only fighting monsters for the sake of world peace, but he also knows that Rain was just trying her best so that she wouldn't lose the people she cares about. Rain had fought so many monsters, losing so many of her comrades in the process. Standing in front of a graveyard, Rain asks the person named Karen how long she has to fight. Karen responded that their fight will never end since it is a fate that they cannot escape from. Art tells Rain that she no longer has to fight, but Rain believes that it is already too late for her. Rain tells Art that he would have to kill her for her to stop. The X-Wood thought that killing Rain was something inevitable, releasing its roots from the ground. Art then asks Frey to set up his maximum defense and reassures Urk that he would definitely return to her. The three strongest beings then used their powerful spells, with Art using his body strengthening, Rain with her judgment water, and the X-Wood its tree prison mountain. The three spells caused a huge explosion. As the forces clashed with each other, Art and the others were shocked when a black hole appeared in the sky. While the others were confused as to what had happened, Rain explained that the flow of mana had been disturbed and that the energy field might have been warped by a large force. Everyone became alarmed as the sky turned to darkness. When Art asked Xwood for an explanation, Xwood could not respond to Art's question, as the creature itself wondered why the world they were on was now being distorted. The whole place was filled with multiple disasters, including tornadoes, heavy rain, and countless crows appearing from nowhere. Xwood mentioned that the disaster that destroyed its world had come to Art's world. Still shocked by what they were seeing, Xwood immediately took action and used its powers to attack the black distortion in the sky. When Art asked Xwood what it was doing, Xwood responded that they still had some time as their new enemy was still charging. By creating another singularity, Xwood believed that they could counterbalance the distortion that had appeared. Xwood was not sure if what they were doing could create a counterbalance, but he hoped that their efforts would succeed. Out of nowhere, an attack hit Xwood. Rain then accused Xwood of creating the illusion. Art tried to convince Rain to stop fighting and said that they would have to work together. However, Rain was utterly convinced that Xwood was only deceiving them and believed that Xwood was the one that created the distortion. After being told by Art that it was all of them that caused the distortion and that Xwood was only trying to help them, Rain became angry, as she would never believe that a monster would try to help a human. All of a sudden, Xwood approached Rain, shocking the two when the mythical creature surrendered. Xwood pleaded for a little help, stating that it did not mind being killed after their land was saved. When Rain tried to attack Xwood once again, Art also once again tried to attack Rain's back. Rain was surprised, as Art had gotten even faster, so much so that her causality magic could not keep up. Art understood that his request might be unreasonable, but he knew that Rain's power was also needed to stop the distortion. Rain responded that it was impossible for her to help, stating that she was now the enemy. Rain had accepted the role of the villain, as she only cared that all monsters be defeated, regardless of how she had portrayed herself. Art pointed out to Rain that she was not a villain, as she had only wanted to protect the people she cared about, an act that a villain would never do. Using their combined powers, Art believed that they could remove the distortion. Rain grabbed hold of a charm and was reminded that it could bring her back home. Memories of the people who had helped her, the children from the orphanage and her sister, appeared in Rain's head. Art was slowly losing hope when his and Xwood's attacks were not working. Using her magic water, Rain added her own attack and combined it with the others. Although Rain wanted to kill monsters, she chose to side with a monster to save the home she had always wanted to protect. With the three attacks combined, Art's hope increased as their magic power also increased. However, the Singularity's powers were so overwhelming that Rain could not keep up with her magic. With despair on their faces, Rain and Art were surprised when Xwood stepped in front and faced the Singularity on its own. Xwood was very impressed with Art, believing that he had potential. Xwood had decided to seal the distortion using its own body and instructed Art to work with Rain to cut its body down. Xwood then apologized, expressing how nice it would have been for monsters and humans to coexist. Art tried to convince Xwood to search for such a promised land with him, but Xwood believed that such a land would not be theirs, but rather would just be a human land. After sealing the distortion, Rain immediately took the opportunity to launch a powerful attack. Art wanted Rain to stop, but understood that it was their only way of saving their world. Using a stroke of his absolute blade, Art successfully cut down Xwood's body along with the Singularity. As the sky's light returned and pieces of Xwood fell from the sky, Art felt heartbroken. Unsheathing his sword, Art hoped that a bond between humans and monsters would soon bloom. After Urk took her bath and dressed up, she met up with her brother and Art. Frey did not expect that his sister would speak to Art first before addressing him. After reminding Art to rest properly, his attention shifted to the food called yakimono. Art explained that he remembered seeing the dish a long time ago, and ever since then, both the food and the cooking method had stuck with him. When Urk saw Wenty and Flaverick, she passed by the shivering Wenty and told her that while she hadn't yet forgiven her, she would continue to trust her since Art was fine with it. All of a sudden, Princess Leia arrived, informing Art that she had brought what he had requested. Seeing the mountain of food, Art was very grateful to the princess, while Urk was suspicious of her actions and asked if the food had been stolen from the castle. After assuring Urk that she had received permission for the food, Princess Leia called out to the person in the back, saying they could now reveal themselves. Art was overjoyed when Rain revealed herself. When Sister Rax saw her younger sister, she approached the fidgeting Rain. Expecting to receive an earful from her sister, Rain was surprised when Sister Rax hugged her instead. As everyone witnessed the two sisters reuniting after the incident, Rain could not help but tear up. She apologized for making her sister worry and for everything she had done. After speaking with her sister, Rain bowed in front of Art and Urk, apologizing for the trouble she had caused them. Urk, who had already learned about Rain's life story, pitied her and suggested that she simply enjoy the celebration for the day. Art was then reminded of something important and informed the X-Wood that it could now come out. Everyone immediately went on high alert when they saw the X-Wood seed. After being asked by everyone for an explanation, the X-Wood revealed that when it suppressed the distortion, it had believed there would be no chance for it to survive. However, the sudden magic that Art had poured into the creature had awakened it once again. The X-Wood promised that it would not cause any more problems as it had lost all of its powers. The once mythical creature now planned to search for a place where its species could live peacefully. Rain, who had hunted the creature for most of her life, accepted the truth about the X-Wood no longer intending to hurt anyone. Princess Leia then suggested that they eat now and save the conversation for later. In front of the sizzling food, Art thanked everyone for their hard work. Hoping that all of the species could coexist moving forward, Art shared a toast with everyone. With his elegant skills, Art cooked and fed everyone the delicious food. After the feast, Urk was surprised when Princess Leia revealed that she was giving Art an entire mine. The mine had been decided to be given to Art after the Queen Locust was defeated. Art appreciated the reward but was not sure what to do with it. Since Art is not interested in rewards like a mine, Sister Rax then thought of an idea and suggested allowing the X-Wood to live in the mine. Princess Leia thought the idea was great, as it would greatly help Art in managing the mine. When Urk asked about his thoughts on Sister Rax's suggestion, Art thought that the idea was great. Flaverick raised his concern about a monster receiving land, but Princess Leia did not care, and would even use her father's power to have the idea pushed through. When Rain wanted to share her thoughts, Art approached her as he understood what Rain wanted to say. Art knows that the reward itself is something complicated for Rain, but he hopes that Rain would still feel at ease. Art promises to everyone that he will work hard to ensure everyone can show kindness as long as he is around. X-Wood finds the humans quite difficult to understand but would still accept the offer. Art thanked Princess Leia and asked when the handover would take place. Princess Leia responded that including all the paperwork it would take about 10 days. As Art suggested that they go to the mine on the day of the handover and to ease everyone's worry, Art proposed that both he and Rain would take care of things, to which Rain agreed. Princess Leia was very much pleased to witness a historic event, the first ever peace with humans and monsters. Seeing how Art was surrounded by the people he cared for, Rain thought that Art would surely change the world for the better and save more people than she ever could. After agreeing to Art's proposal, Rain decided for herself that she would live in the Ill family's mansion, protecting Art from any other threats. Shocked by Rain's decision, Art believed that Rain was not allowed to decide on her own. However, Urk herself mentioned that she didn't mind Rain living with them, as she believed that another person would not make any difference. Emitting a sparkling aura, Rain grabbed hold of Art's arm, never wanting to let Art go. Lying on his bed, Art had caught a fever. Even though an emergency potion had been administered, Art's fever still would not go down, making him think that he may have pushed himself too hard. Hearing commotion outside, Art left his bed to check what was going on. When Urk and Rain saw Art coming out of his room, Urk blamed Rain for disturbing his rest. Since Art was finally awake, Rain asked Art to pour his magic onto a miniature doll of himself. After pouring magic onto the doll suddenly moved, scaring Art in the process. Everyone became confused as to what was happening as the doll came to life. Other maids found the doll very cute. When Art asked what the doll was, Rain explained that it was a magic tool called a mimic doll. Once magic is poured onto the doll, it will start to move on its own. Since Art keeps pushing himself, Urk thought of ways to make things easier for him. Since the doll reflects the personality of the one who powers it, it will follow the wish of its master. When Rain was asked if there would be any consequence, Rain explained that the magic involves a magical contract, making it more dangerous. Rain responded that there would be less danger since they were only using a small amount of magic. The magic contract was once used in ancient times for major contracts involving magic. However, magic contracts no longer exist in their time. When Art asked why magic contracts no longer exist, Rain told him that the contract was deemed forbidden. The contracts could interfere with various phenomena in the world, involving life, curses, and even the destruction of an entire nation. Realizing how dangerous the contract was, Art outright refused, as he did not want to engage in such a risky practice. Rain reassured Art that the contract they would be using was safe and easy to handle. When Rain mentioned that the contract would not work when used on living creatures or monsters, Urk then asked if the contract was different from Art's contract with X-Wood. When both Art and X-Wood mentioned that they trusted each other, Urk was surprised to learn that Art's contract was entirely based on mutual trust. Since regular people also possess magic power, it is possible for anyone to perform the contract. When the doll approached Urk and hugged her, Urk found the doll adorable since it looked like Art was getting closer to her. When Urk saw Art's expression, she became embarrassed and immediately stomped on the doll. Urk then punched her brother, blaming him for the embarrassment. Noticing Rain's sudden change in behavior, Art asked her why she was acting all high and mighty. Rain explained that the house was owned by a noble, which made her believe that the family liked strong people. With Rain's logic, it led her to believe that she was the most amazing magician. Staring at Rain then asked her if she liked Art. Did not expect the question, which made Art decide to answer on behalf. When Art mentioned that his role was only that of a butler and nothing more, he then turned to wanting her to confirm that his answer was correct. When responded yes, Rain commented on answer as boring and announced that Art was hers alone. Art was surprised when Princess Leia appeared out of nowhere, confronting Rain for trying to steal Art from her. Then clarified to Princess Leia that Art was not hers, and then told her grandfather not to let anyone else in. Art started to feel dizzy as the three women began pulling him towards themselves. When heard someone screaming, she was surprised and asked what had happened. The maid explained that when she poured magic, the doll suddenly broke a vase. After Ramon told the maid that they could just buy another vase, he was startled when he heard someone scream again. Ramon was shocked when he learned that his precious bed had been destroyed. Seeing the commotion that the dolls were causing, ignored her brother, who was also being beaten up by the dolls, and instructed everyone to find the other dolls. It then occurred to Rain that if someone who did not have good magical control used the doll, it could go out of control. Before leaving, ordered Rain to deactivate the dolls. Although the dolls were intended for Art's sake, no one had expected them to backfire. Suddenly stopped when she remembered being asked about her feelings for Art, making her question her feelings about him. When heard voices behind her, she turned around, coincidentally missing the dolls that were encased inside a bubble. Hearing another sound behind her, turned again and was surprised to see Art approaching her. Art apologized for being late. As things began to settle down, Princess Leia then told and Rain to reflect on their actions. Art then thanked both and Rain for making the dolls for him, informing the two that he was happy even after everything that had happened. Art then asked everyone to rest. With Art managing to control the dolls and with Rain's help, everything returned to normal. Art was happy that he could help everyone with his life magic and hoped that such a peaceful life could continue forever. However, Art ended up getting sick again. As the day arrived when Xwood would be moving to the mine, it was discussed among people with authority that the guild would supervise the mine. The area would officially be treated as farmland, managed as land where spirits live, serving as an agricultural exchange between humans and monsters. While a new beginning was taking place elsewhere, Art, on the other hand, was facing the greatest trial of his life. Art looked empty and broken as he stared at a shattered weapon. Who was observing Art, had a vague idea of what was happening but still asked Rain what had occurred. Rain apologized, admitting that she had been reckless. 30 minutes earlier, Art had asked Rain to enhance his life magic even further. Art wanted to improve the precision of controlling the dolls to make them more useful. Upon hearing Art's reasoning, Rain advised him to fundamentally increase his magical capacity. During their training, things had escalated and both Rain and Art had gotten carried away. Told Rain that she could have held back a little more. However, Rain insisted that she didn't want to hold back, as she believed doing so wouldn't help Art improve. When mentioned that she had never seen Art so depressed before, it made Rain feel even guiltier, and she sincerely apologized. Since household did not have a blacksmith, they had no choice but to seek Princess Leia's help. Smiling brightly, Princess Leia presented a variety of weapons crafted by blacksmiths from across the continent. When asked who had paid for all the weapons, Princess Leia responded that the weapons came from her personal funds. Knowing the princess, was certain that the funds used were actually from the national treasury. Princess Leia explained that as Art's future wife, she must ensure that he has everything he needs. When Princess Leia asked Art if there was anything he wanted, Art simply replied that he didn't want anything. Comforted Art, knowing that he had been using his sword for a long time. It was thanks to his sword that Art had been able to protect so many people, including himself. Art began to cry as he felt he owed his weapon a great deal. Princess Leia apologized, saying she hadn't realized how important Art's sword was to him. As Art regretted his actions, touched his cheek and mentioned how she had witnessed him using his sword to save her countless times. When Art apologized to for looking pathetic, responded that she understood what he was going through. Rain then pointed out that not having a sword would become an inconvenience for Art. The general then informed Art that he might be interested in a magic sword. While the others were curious about the magic sword, Rain glared at the general and asked if he knew anything about magic swords. Art was shocked when the general mentioned that he had held one before. When Art asked if such a sword could even be wielded, the general responded that he had not been able to wield it because he was not chosen by the sword. 30 years ago, when the general sought strength above all else, he mentioned how he had to pass 7 trials just to wield the magic sword. However, the trials were so brutal that they pushed the general to the brink of death and caused him to mentally collapse countless times. Rain finds the general's story a bit strange as she mentions that she would have killed him by now if he had truly been under the sword's control. Both Urk and Art were surprised by Rain's comment. Rain tells everyone that she is serious, as magic swords interfere with the soul in the worst cases. A magic sword can possess its user and cause harm. Pointing her staff at the general, Rain informs him that owning a cursed sword is incredibly dangerous and also utterly reckless. Upon hearing more about magic swords, Art tells everyone that he does not want a weapon that is meant to hurt someone. As magic swords are something that elves know too well, Rain suggests that they ask her sister more about it. When Art and Urk asked Sister Rax about magic swords, she outright told Art that he shouldn't wield such a weapon. Sister Rax further explained that magic swords are something an ordinary man should not handle. Although a magic sword is something that a human should not wield, Sister Rax shared that during the Great War in the past, a hero once used a magic sword and won the battle. The ones who created the magic sword were the ancient elves. However, the elves also have an old legend. Those who wield the magic sword will receive power, but the user will have to walk the path of darkness. Even if its user is a rightful person, the magic sword will eventually make the wielder bring destruction onto the world. Upon hearing everything that she has said, Sister Rax asks Art if he would still be willing to wield the sword. Art then confidently told Sister Rax that he would. Art understands how dangerous the magic sword can be as it manipulates its user. However, Art believes that it is all just a part of the magic sword's legend, and that it all comes down to how the power is being used. Art does not want to prove his strength through sheer force, but also admits that a time may come where he would need such strength to solve problems on his own. Art states how he wanted power not for fighting but for protecting. Art wanted to make the people he loves happy and feel safe. Urk smiles as she tells Art that she supports him with everything she has. Frey appears, asking everyone if they are all done talking. Frey shares some good news, telling everyone that a tournament is being held where the magic sword is the prize. However, Frey also tells them about the bad rumors he has heard. When Frey mentioned that the kingdom had sent out a request, both Art and Urk also decided to participate. Meanwhile, a woman who's riding a dragon has come and wants to meet the Ice Lady. At a massive shipboard arena called Atlantia, the Magic Sword tournament is underway. With the magic sword as its grand prize, Art had also participated by borrowing a sword from the organizers. The hosts announced that the tournament is being hosted by the Guild of the Sluster Empire. It was then announced that the winner of the first match was none other than Art. The crowd cheered for Art, but called him Benjamin instead. Before the tournament had started, Peters had informed Art that he would be going on an undercover mission and that he would be using a fake name. The mission came from a direct request from His Majesty himself. Since Art's face was not yet widely known, it would be less risky for the two of them to infiltrate. However, Peters still advised them to stay low. Peters pointed out to Art that they still needed to be prepared regardless of whether anything would happen. The magic sword is a symbol of immense power, possessing the ability to reshape the world entirely. After Peters mentioned the danger of the weapon falling into the wrong hands, Art began to worry and asked Peters if they were truly the right people for the mission. Peters was confident that Art and Urk could pull off the mission, as they had already taken down 2 S-class threats. Aside from taking down a powerful monster, Art and Urk are the ones Peters trusts the most. Before Peters left Urk, he jokingly told her that the winner of the tournament would also get a hot kiss as a reward. Urk was startled when Art suddenly appeared. Seeing Urk's face turning red, Art immediately checked on her, asking if she was feeling sick. While talking to Urk, Art sensed someone observing them nearby. Walking down the hall, Urk asked Art if he could smell something. Confused, Art promised Urk that he had already taken a bath. To Art's surprise, he bumped into Rain. Art had thought that Rain would be on watch. Rain then told Art that she had followed them because she was worried about their safety, pointing to Urk and mentioning that Urk was weaker than her. Rain then reminded Art of their deal, that they would get married once Art obtained the magic sword. Both Art and Urk were surprised, as Art himself had never heard of such a promise before. Rain explained to Art that once he wielded the magic sword, he would become a symbol of power. Rain believes that a powerful person must have a strong wife, which she believes can only be her. The conversation turned in a different direction as Rain challenged Urk to an appeal contest, and the winner would be the one who marries Art. After explaining the rules, Art voiced his concern, stating that neither he nor anyone else would be able to rate things the way Rain had explained. After teasing Urk about her feelings towards Art, Urk finally snapped and asked Rain who had told her that she would give Art away. Urk became competitive and ordered Art to stay silent and simply watch the battle between the women. The two women then played a game of rock, paper, scissors, which led to Rain winning the game. After portraying her appeal to Art, Urk became intimidated. When Rain insinuated to Art that her appeal should score 5 points, Art, still confused, told Rain that he did not know. Not wanting to upset anyone, Art decided to give Rain 3 points. Both Urk and Rain were disappointed with Art for choosing a safe score. When it was Urk's turn, Art's face turned red as Urk used her figure to gain more favor. To Urk's surprise, Art ended up looking as though his soul had left his body after witnessing her appeal. When Urk learned that she had received 5 points, she became ecstatic. All of a sudden, the whole place shook. It was then announced that the ship had collided with a submerged reef. Before Art could react, it was already too late as water had begun flooding their location. Rain asked them to give her some time as she planned to control the water flow in their area. Art then turned to Urk, asking for her help. Seeing Art's kindness, Urk was reminded of why women were drawn to him. A passenger noticed a crack nearby, but before they could report it, the crack had already burst, allowing more water into the ship. With Rain still preparing her spell and Art doing his best to help, Urk felt disappointed that she could not use her magic in a time of crisis. All of a sudden, Urk heard a voice asking her if she desired power. Urk became distracted and asked aloud who was speaking to her. She then realized that the voice was speaking directly into her mind. As Urk witnessed Art struggling to hold off the water, she immediately made the decision to ask the voice in her head for power. To everyone's surprise, all the water vanished, leaving the entire area covered in ice. While Urk remained in shock, Rain glared at the sword that had magically appeared behind Urk. Urk was speechless and a bit embarrassed after they had assumed that Urk was Benjamin's girlfriend. When Rain asked the three if they saw what she did, the three men were confused as they criticized Rain's small figure. As Art immediately removed the hot-headed Rain, he also thanked Urk for helping him. The praise coming from Art brightened Urk's heart, but she was afraid to be honest with him, and instead told Art that he could have handled the situation better. Art somewhat agreed with Urk as he thought that strengthening the wall with enchantment magic and using a laundry trick for the water might have solved the problem. Art was still grateful to Urk, stating that the fact that he was saved would never change. Hearing more praise from Art brightened Urk's heart even more. The two were then told by another worker that there were more floods in some areas. All fired up, Urk asked Art to handle the matter as she would try to handle the other flooded area. Reminded of their previous conversation where Urk wanted Art to rely on her, Art was certain that after what Urk did, she was now very happy. Rain then called Art's attention, asking him to observe her power. Rain told Art that the ice magic Urk had cast was far beyond ordinary ice magic, revealing that the sword on Urk's back was a magic sword. Rain was astonished by Urk, as she admitted that she didn't even sense Urk's powers. Although Rain was worried, she was certain that everything would be alright as long as Urk's mind remained stable. Letting out a sigh, Rain was saddened by the fact that she would have to babysit Urk again. Having no knowledge of such power hiding inside Urk, Art wondered if both Raymond and Frey knew about it, and if they did, why they kept it a secret. For those who wield a magic sword, they would attain insurmountable power. However, in exchange for power, the user would have to walk the path of darkness. Art found it hard to believe that someone would give something so dangerous to Urk. Urk then informed the workers that she had already blocked the flood with ice and asked what was next. After being told that it was the last one, Urk confirmed that the disaster was finally over. All of a sudden, a noise was heard from inside the barrel. When Urk turned, she was curious as to why there was a barrel behind her. Even the workers were also curious as to why there was a barrel near them, making them wonder if someone had moved it. Since none of them remembered any barrels around, the workers started to recall and imagine the famous rumor about a barrel monster on their ship. Urk calmed the workers, reassuring them that such a thing did not exist. When Urk opened the barrel, she was left speechless after seeing her own brother inside it. Annoyed, Urk immediately covered the barrel, picked it up, and threw it into the ocean. The old worker became worried, asking Urk what she was doing. Rain, who believed that the person inside the barrel looked a lot like Frey, asked Urk if what she did was okay. Urk responded that the person inside the barrel was not her brother, but a monster called a pervert. When Art finally caught up with the others, Urk then told Art that all the holes had been sealed up and that she had just thrown out some trash. Not seeing Rain around, Urk asked Art where Rain went. Art revealed that Rain had gone to look for some snacks and had just left. With just the two of them left, Urk felt very happy as all the distractions were now gone. While Urk was busy planning things that she and Art could do, Art, on the other hand, was surprised when he saw Frey coming from the sea. Urk became annoyed when Frey finally got himself back on the ship. Curious, Art asked Frey why he was on the ship, as he remembered that royal knights weren't supposed to be there. Frey did not want to give more comments, admitting that what he did technically counted as trespassing. Frey felt embarrassed, stating how he was just worried about Urk. Stepping on Frey's face, Urk told her brother that she would have blamed him if their plan had failed. Aside from trying to look out for Urk's safety, Frey figured that Urk was already at her limit and eventually unveiled the secret of the Isfeel family. The two gasped after hearing what Frey had told them. Urk was confused, asking Frey if her magic was somehow connected to the Isfeel family. Frey revealed that the Isfeel family was a bloodline that controlled ice and pointed out the strange fact that only Urk couldn't use magic. Frey explained that he and Raymond had planned to tell Art as well but were hesitant, thinking Urk would get scared. However, knowing Art, Frey believed that Art was strong enough to face the secret. Being overly cautious of Art, Frey honestly told him how he envied the kind of distance he had with Urk. Frey thought they still had time, which was why Raymond went out of his way to get the two on the ship. Frey had finally decided to tell Urk and Art everything, the secrets of the Isfeel family, as well as the magic sword, which was called the Divine Spirit Blade that guides the light, the very reason why he had followed the two onto the ship. Unveiling everything about the Isfeel family, Frey began with the time when the Isfeel family was once called the strongest and its most cursed era. He spoke of the first head of the Isfeel family, who was also known as the Sage of Ice. Hearing the word sage, Art asked if it was similar to Rain. Frey confirmed it, stating that the first head of the Isfeel family and Rain were known as legendary heroes. Frey apologized to Urk for hiding the truth from her, explaining that his intention was to protect her. He continued with his story, informing the two that the first head of the family was so powerful that she could cover the world in ice. However, along with overwhelming power came a curse that brought misfortune to others. When Frey mentioned that misfortune had occurred on the day Urk was born, Urk immediately thought that she had killed her parents. However, that was not the case, as Frey told her that her powers had nothing to do with their parents' deaths. Frey was certain that Urk would not remember the day she was born, revealing how Urk had frozen the entire mansion. The situation at the time was so bad that, fortunately for the Isfeel family, Raymond and Frey somehow managed to mediate the matter. However, the problem was still not resolved. Urk was unable to control her magic. The problem was so serious that Urk's magic almost reached her heart. The Isfeel family used the Divine Spirit Blade that guides the light as a seal and placed it on Urk's magical body. However, once something spills out from the seal, it can never return. Urk could not believe that she had inherited the strongest bloodline of ice more than anyone else, as she remembered being known as the failure of the Isfeel family. Adding to the fact that she had no magic, Urk pointed out that her sword skills were nothing compared to her brothers. Afraid of everyone's eyes, Urk tried not to get involved with anyone. She believed that she had no talent at all. Frey told Urk that her having no talent was not true. In order to seal away Urk's dangerous ability, Frey and Raymond had to use the magic sword. The magic sword was a weapon Frey received through a magical contract with the world's strongest magic swordsman, the Flame Dragon King. The Flame Dragon King was a legendary swordsman who appeared in historical records alongside Rain. It was written in the records that the Flame Dragon King used his magic sword to split the continent in two and burned the land for 10 days. In exchange for the sword, the Flame Dragon King would come and take Urk from the Isfeel family once she matured. Frey admitted that the terms they accepted were unthinkable. However, it was the only option they had to keep Urk alive. When Urk asked Frey why they didn't tell her sooner, Frey revealed that they would have after they found a way to protect Urk. Urk found it very cruel of Frey and her grandfather to let her live freely until the Flame Dragon King came to take her. Frey suggested to Urk that they escape together, stating that he was prepared to flee from the Flame Dragon King regardless of the ancient contract still being valid. Art looked distressed after hearing Frey's suggestion, as he knew that magic contracts always came with a price, with examples being a life, a curse, or even the destruction of an entire kingdom. Urk declined Frey's offer, deciding to stay. Urk understood that her brother and the others were only trying to keep her safe by hiding the secret, but after maturing, Urk told Frey that she was no longer a bird trapped in a cage, and had since followed Art's words to live by. Urk was not afraid of the Isfeel family curse or the Flame Dragon King, as she was certain that she would be fine since Art and her brother were with her. Showing his true feelings, Frey told Urk that he did not care about anything except Urk. Determined to protect his precious sister, Frey told the two that he would do whatever it took, even if he had to take Urk by force. Drawing his sword, Frey told Art that if he intervened, he would not show any mercy, understanding that the matter should be handled by the two siblings, and that whatever happened next was for them to decide. Art told Frey that he would not interfere. However, before they began, Art suggested that they change locations as he was concerned that the fight would result in another hole in the ship. Moving inside to an arena, Frey became excited to finally fight Urk seriously. Agreeing with Frey, Urk told her brother that she was sick of fighting him when he was always trying to hold back. Observing from the deck, Art asked Peters if he knew everything. Peters respected both Frey and Raymond's determination. However, knowing that the enemy was one of the strongest S ranks, Peters believed that retreat was the best choice. When Peters asked Art what they should do about the situation, Art responded that in a sibling fight, an outsider had no place interfering. Peters then asked Art what would happen next if Urk won and had to face the Flame Dragon King. Peters believed that by taking the magic sword from the tournament, they would have a better chance of fighting. Unsheathing both of their swords, Urk and Frey were now ready to show their real strength to one another. Frey initiated the fight by charging directly toward Urk. Frey moved so fast that Urk reacted late and could not put any distance between her and Frey. In the middle of his attack, Frey advised Urk not to just focus on him, but to also observe her surroundings, telling Urk to look up. To Urk's surprise, a spell had already been activated and was ready to be released. Frey's ice celestial spear was powerful enough to destroy the arena. Art was very impressed at how much Frey had improved. Peters, on the other hand, was not that surprised, knowing how Frey was a very hard-working person. Peters found it very ironic that Frey was fighting his sister using the strength and power he gained to protect her. As Peters wondered if such a fight could have been avoided, Art thought differently. Knowing how stubborn the siblings were, Art knew that their fight would have happened sooner or later. Hearing Art's opinion, Peters smiled as he realized that Art had truly grown a little. With the fight getting intense, Peters asked Art who he thought would win. Unable to decide, Art wished for the two to win. However, Peters rejected Art's ideology, believing that only one should come out as the winner. Frey was impressed with Urk blocking his attack with ice magic. However, after observing Urk's ice and seeing how distorted it was compared to normal ice magic, Frey believed that Urk still couldn't control her innate powers. Frey immediately realized that the magic sword had lost its function as a seal. Urk revealed that during the incident, she had heard a voice. Frey immediately realized that the sword had interacted with Urk and reminded her that magic swords weren't necessarily allies to humans. Magic swords have existed in the world since ancient times, making their origins mostly unknown. Most of the magic swords tend to become enemies and also have the ability to take over human bodies. Listening to Frey, Urk asked her brother if he thought she was being possessed. Knowing Urk since her childhood days, Frey had never seen Urk so determined before, which made him believe that she might have been possessed by her weapon. Angered by Frey's words, Urk told her brother to stop treating her like a child. When Urk was still very young, she was left in the care of the ill family's staff. When Urk asked about the whereabouts of her family and was told that they would eventually return, Urk realized that she had asked for something she was never meant to know, which made her decide to pretend that she had heard nothing. Urk admitted to herself that she was never going to be as talented as her brother. She also noticed how her grandfather was always harsh on Frey but kind towards her. Despite feeling no love from the people around her, Urk still felt happy because she could sense Frey's genuine smile, always hugging her and making her feel safe in the world. Bringing up the topic of Frey making a magical contract, Urk remembered that for one to make a magic contract, they would lose their life if they broke it. Urk believed that if she did not face the Flame Dragon King, her brother and grandfather would face severe consequences. Not wanting such a fate to happen, Urk was determined to protect her family. Frey was surprised when Urk mentioned that it was him who saved her before she met Art. After learning about the magic sword and taking it, Urk had also decided that she would save her precious family. Frey was shocked at Urk's speed, making him wonder if the magic sword had enhanced her body. However, Frey quickly realized that was not the case. Seeing Urk coming at him with everything she had, Frey realized that Urk was truly trying to win the fight. He could not believe that the small and fragile Urk he once knew had changed so much. Not wanting to betray Urk's feelings, Frey used an enchantment spell called Ice Bind, trapping Urk inside a huge rose made of ice. Frey revealed that the spell he used was something he had created specifically for Art, and unless he cancelled it, the person inside could never escape. Knowing how similar they were, Frey used Urk's stubbornness to his advantage, hoping that Urk would not call him unfair. Thinking Urk was frozen and unable to respond, Frey was stunned when his magic was destroyed, revealing a smiling Urk. Frey was truly in shock, since his spell was strong enough that even dragons couldn't break it. Seizing her opportunity to counter, Urk used all her strength and delivered a vicious headbutt. Urk explained that she was somehow resistant to ice magic, making Frey's magic powerless against her. Unbeknownst to Frey, Urk had also used their stubbornness to her advantage, baiting him into creating an opening for a counterattack. With Frey sitting on the floor, Urk asked if her counterattack proved that she had won. Remembering the time he faced Art, Frey laughed, admitting his defeat. He had never thought he would suffer a loss to his sister. Frey was certain that their grandfather would scold them again. When Frey mentioned that the time had finally come, Urk was confused and asked what he meant. Frey revealed that the Flame Dragon King was now coming towards them. Rain sensed a familiar presence, informing everyone that the Flame Dragon King had arrived. Everyone was surprised when they saw a huge ball of fire coming towards them. Trying to create some distance between them and the Flame Dragon King, Rain decided to get serious. When the huge ball of flame came into contact with Rain's magic barrier, it caused a huge uproar that spread miles away. Thanks to Rain's protection, everyone came out safe. As Urk realized that they were now facing the Flame Dragon King, Frey advised his sister to brace herself, as she was now going to stand before the world's greatest magic swordsman. When the Flame Dragon King revealed herself in a dramatic fashion, the first thing she did was laugh at Rain's appearance for not changing one bit. Rain was not pleased with Karen, the Flame Dragon King's entrance, telling her that everything she did was so rough and careless. With a few exchanges of words, the two were about to start a whole different level of fight. Seeing how Rain was still as arrogant as ever, Karen asked her why she was on the ship. When Rain responded that she was on vacation, Karen did not believe her words. Announcing that she would be taking the Pillar of the Future, Karen asked Rain if she planned to get in her way. However, to Karen's surprise, Rain told her that she would be doing no such thing since she had nothing to do with the magic contract. Karen was surprised when Rain changed her mind. Rain explained that she didn't want to get into trouble again by sticking her nose where it didn't belong. Karen sighed, not expecting that the being who was once called the strongest mage had become soft. Karen reminded Rain of the eternal law of their world, taking what they desire by force. Seeing Rain smile, Karen asked for the reason. Rain herself was not sure and simply told the Flame Dragon King that she would lose. Karen felt a bit frustrated, thinking of the possibility that Rain might intervene, hoping that Rain would just go somewhere else. Unable to think of alternative options, Karen decided to just crush Rain as well. Unable to comprehend the overwhelming presence, Urk asked her brother who exactly the Flame Dragon King was. Frey revealed that Karen, also known as the legendary magic swordsman and Flame Dragon King, was the leader of the world's strongest race, the Dragon Clan. Karen was considered a double S rank, a legendary adventurer who once put an end to the primordial spirit tree. After vanquishing an incomprehensible being, Karen had become the embodiment of destruction. Urk immediately felt Karen's pressure just from her gaze. Art also could not believe the intensity of the pressure that Karen was putting on them, believing that if he let his guard down, he would certainly be crushed. Complimenting Frey's bold action, Karen asked him if he really thought he could escape. Karen had believed that the Isfeel family was pure and righteous, entrusting her magic sword to them, but was surprised when she found out that Frey was now backing off from their deal. Frey admitted to treasuring his family's honor. However, he still refused to back down against the Flame Dragon King. Finally meeting Urk, Karen told her how much she had grown. Urk thanked the Flame Dragon King for giving her the magic sword, allowing her to live long enough for them to meet. Getting straight to the point, the Flame Dragon King, Karen, wished for Urk to bear her child. The announcement left everyone speechless. Karen stated how she wanted to have a child with Urk, as she believed that her power combined with the power of the Isfeel family would certainly create the strongest child, a power that surpasses magic swords. If her wish were to come true, Karen believed that the child would truly be worthy of becoming her successor. Everyone was shocked when Karen revealed her private part. Flushed, Urk asked Karen what she had just revealed. Karen explained that gender did not matter for dragons since they were originally a rare species. To sustain their race, the Dragon Clan had developed both reproductive functions. Among the members of the Dragon Clan, there was no one stronger than Karen. Among other species, she was not fond of elves. For Karen, humans were one of the few species that could reproduce effectively, and Urk happened to be a member of the most special, powerful bloodline. Karen had already passed her prime as a dragon, and with her body growing older with time, she needed someone to take over after her. Karen then asked Urk to fulfill the contract by giving her blood, ultimately repaying the Isf family's debt. Art finally understood why Frey was trying to help Urk escape. As a member of the Dragon Clan, Karen's morals and values were completely different from those of humans. Urk refused to fulfill the contract, stating that she treasured her family more than anything, making it clear that she had no intention of leaving Art or her brother. Karen sighed after hearing more refusals from Urk, stating that the only thing impressive about Urk was her body. With incredible speed, Karen knocked Urk out by striking her in the back, and informed Urk that she would simply take what she wanted by force. Seeing Urk being taken in front of them, both Frey and Art immediately reacted, trying to get Urk back. However, they were caught off guard by Karen's flame-armored dragon, Poldold Bacillus. As the raging dragon rained fire on the ship, everyone could only close their eyes and hope for the best. Fortunately, they were protected by rain. Feeling refreshed after seeing the ship engulfed in flames, Karen was not expecting Urk to be awake so quickly and to create some space between the two of them. After receiving Urk's magic attack, Karen praised Urk's magic power for exceeding her expectations. Karen warns Urk one last time, pointing out to Urk how her power would someday hurt someone. Urk admits that she is scared. However, her fear is not strong enough for her to let go of the life she currently has. Now wielding a huge amount of power, Urk thought that must be how Rain feels. Not wanting to be separated from Art, Urk did not expect to understand such feelings in a crucial situation. As Urk plans to end the Isfeel matter, Karen, on the other hand, has decided to no longer hold back. Meanwhile, Art is checking up on both Peters and Frey. With a burning dragon in front of them, Art states that of all the dragons he has slain, the dragon in front of them is something else. Peters then informs the two that they will be facing dire consequences if they don't bring Urk back. Frey informs the two that the problem is an Isfeel family matter, and that it is their responsibility in handling it. Admitting that he can't do anything by himself, Frey requests Art's help in saving Urk. Bending a knee in front of Frey, Art agrees to help Urk, stating that Urk is also now his family. claiming Urk to be a part of his family. Art thought that it may have sounded a bit arrogant, but Frey did not think so, telling Art that it sounded good to him. The two drew their weapons, ready to face the flame-armored dragon. Meanwhile, Karen was disappointed after taking Urk down with mere flames. Creating a slash as a distraction, Art was able to save Urk from Karen, taking her to a safe spot. Art then turns and introduces himself to Karen as Urk's butler. Seeing Art, Karen finally understood why Rain is so relaxed, as she had thought that it was because of Urk and Frey, who are deemed to be strong enough to face the Flame Dragon King. But seeing what Art can do, Karen realized that she was gravely mistaken. Art immediately took action, initiating an attack towards Karen. However, his attack was easily blocked by the Flame Dragon King. Before unleashing her skill called Ash Annihilation, Karen informs Art to protect everything with all his might. Facing the flame-armored dragon, Art used his body enhancement, performing his skill Immaculate Perfection and defeating the flame-armored dragon in one swing. Meanwhile, Rain was busy holding back the fire coming from Karen. Seeing Karen smile, Rain knew that the Flame Dragon King was enjoying the destruction she was causing. As Rain wondered what Art was planning to do, Karen, on the other hand, was very curious about how Art stopped her flame-armored dragon. When Art responded that he stopped her magic with an attack, Karen was puzzled, as she did not expect that her Ash Annihilation, which could burn down a nation, was simply stopped by a slash. Art's slash piqued the Flame Dragon King's interest. After assessing that Karen's attack came from the magic sword, Art planned to secure the sword first. Using his speed to his advantage, Art launched his move. However, his tactic was easily read by Karen, who stopped Art by countering with an axe kick. Art's attack left a bad taste in Karen's mouth, making her feel that Art was underestimating her. Seeing Karen's physical power, Art immediately retreated. Karen praised Art for his sword technique. However, she also criticized his weak defense. As the leader of the Dragon Clan, the strongest being in the world, Karen informed Art that her entire body was armored with scales. Getting nicked in the face, Art admitted his miscalculation. However, his tactic also proved to be successful, as he informed Karen that he had now taken her magic sword. Karen later realized that Art had prepared himself to sacrifice everything from the beginning. Before Art could finish what he was about to say, he suddenly felt pain in his head, hearing the magic sword's voice. When Karen ordered her sword, Meteor Blade that reduces to ashes, to return, Art felt an immense heat coming from the sword, forcing him to release his hold. Karen informed Art that throughout the ages, she had never had a sword as loyal as her magic sword, which she treasured very much. She then clarified that Art had misunderstood a few things, explaining that it's not the magic sword that chooses its wielder, but the strong who choose the magic sword. As the creator of the magic contract, Karen stated that those who wield great power have the duty to manage and maintain order, and that Urk was just a part of that. Recognizing Art as an outsider and not part of the Isfeel family, Karen asked him why he would go so far. Thinking of Urk and the others, Art responded that everyone in the Isfeel family is precious to him. Art asked the Flame Dragon King if she understood the feeling of holding someone dear. Since Karen found it difficult to understand human feelings, she did not bother to do anything about it. Karen advised Art to prepare himself, as she would show the true essence of the magic sword. With the magic sword merging with Karen's body, she had now donned the magic sword armor, manifestation of the Flame King. After releasing their limits, the two then engaged in a fight that caused a huge explosion. Both Peters and Frey were amazed by Art, making the two believe that Art was now on equal footing with the Flame Dragon King. Observing the fight, Rain assessed that Art was now at the same level as when she was at her full strength. Seeing Frey's frustrated look, Rain told him that she understood how he felt. As Rain valued her family the same as Frey, she unfortunately couldn't extend further help since she couldn't meddle in someone else's sibling matters. However, Frey was not mad, but was even grateful towards Rain. Just having her presence made it difficult for Karen to use her fire freely. Frey also believed that Rain already knew that, which was why she stayed within Karen's range. When Frey asked for a favor, Rain responded that she would not be fighting Karen. Frey accepted Rain's decision but pointed out that it was not what he wanted to ask. With a smile on his face, Frey asked Rain if she knew any of Karen's weaknesses. Back in the intense fight between Karen and Art, Karen was very pleased as she had never had so much fun in ages. Karen was very much impressed that a mere butler could withstand her strength. Although Art was just a mere butler, he also believed that he would be nothing if he was not by Urk's side. Remembering his past and present, Art reminded himself not to forget what he was fighting for. Seeing Art putting on a good expression, Karen felt excitement all over her body. Urk suddenly appeared beside Art, reassuring him that with the two of them, they would surely overcome their current obstacle. Art was in shock, as he did not expect Urk to be standing beside him. Confused, Art asks Urk why she is beside him. Pointing out Urk's injury, Art orders her to go back. Grabbing Art's injured hand, Urk tells him that she is the one who's supposed to say those lines to him. Urk couldn't stand the thought of Art going back to his old self, pushing himself too far and worrying about others too much. Urk tells Art that the Flame Dragon King is her problem, and that it is her responsibility to take care of it as a member of the Isfeel family. Being the descendant of the Sage Ice, Urk wishes to use her powers to protect Art. Coincidentally, Art also stated how he wanted to protect Urk. The two confessed to one another that they are both precious to each other. Seeing the two, Karen was a little touched, but she then asked Art what he could do with a weak sword. To solve Art's sword problem, Urk offers her magic sword for Art to use. As Art gladly accepted Urk's sword, he was then knighted by her and received the magic sword's power. Karen could not believe what she was seeing, as the Flame Dragon King did not expect that there would also be others who could wield a magic sword aside from her. With Art experiencing another awakening, Karen guessed that the magic sword had stayed with Urk for so long that it had developed feelings similar to what a parent would have. Intrigued by how the events have turned out, Karen tells Art to know his place for trying to defy her. However, Karen's threats were being ignored as both Urk and Art were surprisingly flirting despite their situation. Angered, Karen reminded Urk that she is the one who's breaking the contract. Taking responsibility as part of the Isfeel family, Urk agrees with Karen. However, after meeting Art, she could no longer help herself from being selfish as well. Seeing how determined the two are, Karen now prepares herself against the combined powers of Urk and Art. Initiating the fight, Karen cast a skill called Frozen Cage onto Art. However, Art was just too fast and had easily dodged it. With the magic sword in his hand, Art felt Urk's emotions from it, how it believed in him from the bottom of Urk's heart. With the fight getting more intense, Karen launched another attack. However, it was now directed at Urk. Joining the battle, Frey used his own magic powers to help Urk block the Flame Dragon King's attack. Although the others were surprised by Frey's power, Karen only laughed at it. Wanting to save his sister, Frey proposed a plan. If Karen continues to use her fire blasts, the ship will not survive, which leaves Urk's group with no other option than to finish everything with one strike. Art then informs Urk that if they strike together, there would be nothing left to fear. Knowing her opponent's plan, Karen and her flames suddenly vanished. Urk was shocked, wondering where Karen went. Up in the clouds, Karen was about to release the Thunder Dragon arrow, Agniastra. Karen warns Art and the others to beg for their lives, as the arrow is unavoidable and could even pierce beings like gods. Karen stated that both Urk and Art are not enough to defeat her. However, Urk corrects Karen, telling her that she still has one more enemy. Frey appeared behind Karen, casting his magic onto Karen's weak spot. Karen could not believe that Frey would attack the source of his magic power. With her weak spot exposed, Karen guesses that it was Rain's plan. Frey apologizes for breaking his promise, not wanting to give his sister away. As Art was about to launch his attack, Karen smiles as the whole place is covered with the demonic Ice Blossom skill. Looking through the window, a weak Ramon is being accompanied by his butler, Tet. Ramon smiles brightly as his grandchildren and Art have finally returned. After welcoming the three, Ramon asks for the details of the fight. Urk informs Ramon about the magic sword, the divine spirit blades that guide the light, as the sword that was once hers. Tet could not believe how Urk's magic sword originally looked. With magic sword still a mystery for Art, he could only remember a loud scream from Karen's magic sword. However, with Urk's magic sword, Art felt like it was guiding him. Urk believes that she is not worthy of wielding the magic sword, so she decides to give it to Art, as she is certain that Art can make better use of the sword. When Ramon asks about the magic sword tournament, Tet informs his lord that Peter was tasked with handling the cleanup behind the scenes. For Ramon, he is relieved and okay with the thought that Urk and the others are now safe. Ramon could not hold back his laughter at how the two siblings wanted to take the responsibility upon themselves. Ramon bowed down in front of his grandchildren, apologizing to them as he acknowledged that the Flame Dragon King was his responsibility and not theirs. Ramon also apologized to Urk for hiding the truth for a long time. Handing Ramon an ice rose, Urk asks her grandfather to raise his head. Urk believes that her grandfather hid the truth for her own sake. Now able to control her magic, Urk asks her grandfather to smile. Embracing the ice rose, Ramon felt grateful and thanked Urk. Ramon also commended Art for helping them out so much. However, Art felt that he still had not done enough to repay what he had received from the Isfeel family. Ramon corrected Art, telling him that he has already done so much for them. The Isfeel family receives strength, guidance, and most importantly, a bond that cannot be broken. Relieved, Art revealed that he had done a terrible thing to Karen. Overhearing the conversation, Karen appeared and asked for Art to compensate her as well. As Karen greets Ramon, Rain warns Karen not to do anything weird since she also lives in the house. Karen was shocked as she assumed that Rain had always lived alone. As everyone starts to prepare themselves for another fight, Karen asks them to calm down. Karen believes that as the sole protector of the world's order, she is the only one who can protect it. However, someone stronger than her has now appeared. Showing the magic contract and burning it in front of everyone, Karen announces that both Art and Urk are the winners. After her announcement, Karen shifts her attention towards the food, eating anything that she touches. Curious, Art asks Karen what she has been eating all this time. When Karen showed her food, Frey commented that it was not human food and was more like dog food jerky. When Art offered food for Karen to taste, Karen was so delighted by it that she even thought of trading Urk for Art. Rain also stated her claim to Art since he can make comfortable beds and delicious food. After being called by Ramon to help with the campfire and with trouble finally over, Rain shares with Karen how she had always wanted to be with her sister, but ended up losing her way and made others suffer. Rain learned from Art that it's not magic swords that can change the world, but the one who wields them. What matters most is the intent behind how the great weapon is used. Karen asks Urk why she entrusted her sword to Art, and what she exactly thinks of Art. The question shocks Urk at first, but she then responds to Karen's question. Urk could only think that Art was so precious to her that she didn't want Art to get hurt. During those times, Urk realized what her grandfather had felt towards her. Urk believed at first that it was fine as long as the person she loves is safe somewhere else, but Urk submits to her emotions and admits that she feels alone when she is not around Art. After being encouraged by Art and being saved by him on multiple occasions, Urk then realized that she had already fallen in love with Art. Surprised by Urk's reasoning, both Karen and Rain try to hold their laughter. Karen comments how it is very human-like for Urk to fight back for the reason that she wanted to be with Art. Since Karen has never experienced what love felt like, she asks Urk what kind of feeling love is. Embarrassed, Urk explained her version of love. However, she felt like she was just being teased by Karen. As everyone was enjoying the feast, Ramon remembered that they have an incoming guest, someone who is not very easy to deal with. During the party, an incident happened where the carriage that the chef was riding broke down. Hearing the problem, Art offered to help, to which everyone accepted. Using his enhancement magic, Art manipulated his puppets to hasten the cooking preparations. Art demonstrated his high perception as one of the staff of the Isfeel family accidentally tripped, and Art still managed to catch her while cooking. Embarrassed, Wenty called herself pathetic. Art encouraged her, praising her for trying her best. When Urk witnessed Art trying to help Wenty stand up, the atmosphere suddenly became heavy. Art asks Urk if she needed something from him. Inside the fitting room, Urk tried on a dress and asked for Art's opinion. When Art complimented Urk's look, Wenty did not expect Urk to be so relaxed, sharing the news that Marquis Razveri would be attending the party. The Marquis is a highly promising person, responsible for national defense. Though Urk and Razveri used to get along well when they were kids, she still finds the Marquis' attitude pretty bad. Wenty also shares how the Marquis' personality has gotten worse, and that Urk would understand once she meets the Marquis. Marquis Razveri comes from one of the highest-ranking noble houses equal to the Isfeel family. When the carriage finally arrived, everyone in the Isfeel estate greeted the Marquis. Razveri Garmond, the Minister of Defense's highest authority, stated how he could never refuse an invitation from the former Prime Minister. As fellow servants to the king, Razveri hoped that their families could work together. Razveri then kneels in front of Urk, praising her timeless beauty. What Razveri did not expect was Urk's response when she mentioned that she has Art with her to make her life easy. When Art introduced himself to Razveri, the Marquis was not happy but at least a little pleased, since Art showed basic manners. As Urk guides the Marquis to the house, Razveri warns Art not to use the Isfeel family as a stepladder to his ambitions. Razveri's mood was ruined when Art just responded plainly, without hateful emotions. Tasting the food that was prepared, Marquis Razveri was all praises until he pointed out that the moment was being fouled by Art's presence at the table. With the Marquis boasting his talents, he made it certain that his food would be much better than the food that was prepared at the party. However, Urk declined his offer and stated that the very food the Marquis praised was made by Art and the others. Marquis Razveri was shocked, as he could not believe that a commoner would be able to make such delicious food. Urk informs Razveri that a true elite would never boast about their status nor look down on others. Knowing what Art is capable of, Urk warns the Marquis that he has no right to belittle someone she holds dear. Marquis Razveri's face turned red as he could not control his emotions from Urk's response. Witnessing the incident, people started whispering about how Urk rejected the Marquis. Concerned, Art tells Urk that she might get scolded by her grandfather. However, Urk did not care. As the Marquis left the party, he wore an angry expression, promising himself that he would never forget the humiliation he received. Seeing the Marquis's expression, Ramon asked if something had happened. Ramon then proposed a deal to Razveri, pointing out how everyone, as well as the king, would love the story about the Marquis praising the food they prepared. The Marquis realized that he could not simply use his authority on someone like the former Prime Minister. Understanding what Ramon was trying to imply, Raspberry decided to keep quiet regarding the incident. However, the Marquis still felt rage within him from losing to a commoner. With the Marquis leaving the estate, Ramon comments on how both troublesome and admirable his granddaughter is. Ramon still did not like Urk disrespecting a high noble and thought of giving her a lesson. Urk is the topic of everyone at the Magic Knight Academy having her beauty praised. Embarrassed, Urk was starting to regret why she visited the academy. Not only Urk received compliments, as also Art, who wore a gallant uniform, received compliments. What Urk disliked with the uniform is how short the skirt is, which she believes is a punishment from her grandfather. Before arriving at the academy, both Urk and Art were ordered by Ramon to attend the academy. Ramon pointed out to Urk that her selfishness had gone too far, and thus needed to learn proper manners of a noble at the academy. Ramon informs Urk that the punishment is only a cover story, as Urk's real mission was to watch over the saint. As mysterious forests across the country are protected by magical barriers, the one that repairs those barriers are known as saints. The saint holds a key position in the country. Lately, the barriers have gotten weak, which led Ramon to believe that something had happened to the saint. Inside the academy, a woman named Cecilia accidentally bumped with a fellow student. Embarrassed, Cecilia ran away instead of apologizing. Exhausted from running, Cecilia then saw Urk and Art surrounded by other students. All of a sudden, the princess appeared and rammed her head onto Art. Cecilia was in shock, as she could feel that both Art and Urk have super extrovert vibes. That conclusion alone made Cecilia decide to avoid the Urk and Art. At the academy, both Art and Urk displayed their remarkable skills with magic and swordsmanship. When Cecilia was little, an incident called land purification happened, which led to her awakening her power as a saint. Even after a year had passed since Cecilia enrolled in the academy, she has yet to find some friends. With Cecilia's current situation, she assumed that she would end up being treated like a heretic. Cecilia's quiet lunch became loud when Frey and the others arrived. Though Frey and the others are the talk in the academy, some of the students also talked of the Forbidden Book. At the academy, the Forbidden Book is something that everyone used to love, containing spicy romance novels about men and women. However, the book suddenly gained popularity a year ago with the theme of all-boy romance. Hearing how the book is being praised, Cecilia could not help but pry, as she is the one who wrote the book. Cecilia had secretly fulfilled the cravings of ladies like a hero of justice. If anyone found out Cecilia's secret, she would be charged with disrespect to royalty. Seeing Art and Frey up close, Cecilia was in shock at how beautiful the two are. When Urk notices Cecilia, she informs Art about it. A fellow student then informed Urk that the person staring at them is Cecilia from the Everyday Magic Club. Receiving attention from the popular students at the academy, Cecilia becomes embarrassed and covers her head with a cloth. Thinking that no one would ever try to be friends with her, Cecilia was surprised when Art approached her, asking if she was the saint. Art introduces himself to Cecilia and tells her how he had been looking forward to meeting her. Cecilia could not believe that someone like Art would engage in a conversation with her. Excited to know more about the Everyday Magic Club, Art asks Cecilia if she can tell him more about it. Cecilia reveals that she is the only member of the club. While Art is in awe of all the plants surrounding them, Cecilia then showed her magic tools. As for the last tool, Cecilia showed a screaming mandrake. Cecilia was surprised when Art told her that he already knew about the mandrake. Though Cecilia thought of her magic tools as useless, Art thought differently, commenting on how everything was amazing. From Art's point of view, his everyday magic has mostly been stuff only he could use. However, Cecilia's are tools that everyone can use. Intrigued, Art wanted to hear more about the magic tools. Having a pleasant conversation with Art, Cecilia thought that talking to other people would be scary, but then realized that she may be wrong. Out in the field, Cecilia asks Urk if she is sure she wants to help. Urk responded and told Cecilia that she didn't mind helping but rather found the task more of a chore than a club activity. Cecilia explains that she has been assigned a lot thanks to the magic she developed, which is also the reason she was able to keep the club going. Since Cecilia is the only member of the club, Urk thought that Cecilia managed to run the club all by herself. However, Cecilia clarified that she had help from her screaming mandrakes. Urk asks Cecilia if she can do something about the screaming, but Cecilia tells Urk that the screaming is the best part. The Mandrake Screaming Contest, which Cecilia participates in, became popular when a guy in a butler suit made everyone pass out and took first place. Thinking of a butler outfit, Urk immediately thought of Art. Art finds Cecilia's tools amazing, pointing out how Cecilia's mandrakes can be used in many ways despite a mandrake's aggressive nature. When Art shared a story where he forced himself to enter a screaming mandrake contest, Urt confirms her theory that the butler Cecilia was talking about was none other than Art. Although Cecilia's mandrake is a common type, what impresses him is how obedient the tiny creatures are. Cecilia shared how her mandrakes have not been doing so well lately. Cecilia is worried that her purification power has a bad effect on monsters. When Cecilia mentioned that burying the mandrakes in water or soil does not help, Urk remembered her past and how she was also once hopeless like Cecilia. Patting Cecilia's shoulder, Urk reassures her that they will be able to find a solution. Curious as to how they can heal monsters, Art thought of an idea to ask Exwood about it. Since Exwood is currently residing in an isolated place, Urk asks Art how they will be able to reach him quickly. Art then showed an Exwood seed and revealed that Exwood gave it to him in case Art wanted to reach him. After throwing the seed into the hole, a plant suddenly sprouted and popped out of the soil. Urk was surprised by Exwood's new appearance, asking the small plant if it was really Exwood. Exwood explains how he has evolved, and that the form is a result of coexisting with humans. After informing Exwood of their concern, Exwood tries to heal the mandrakes with his powers. Exwood shares how mandrakes originally lived in tainted forests like him, as the small creatures absorb evil energy as food. Listening to Exwood, Cecilia confirms that it was indeed because of her that the mandrakes are weakening. Exwood then informs Cecilia that she will have to awaken her hidden saint power in order for her not to be separated from her mandrakes. Disheartened, Cecilia responds that she doesn't have that kind of power. Now surrounded by people who care for her, Cecilia received encouragement. For the sake of the mandrakes, Cecilia wanted to give it a try. Inside the dining room, Cecilia shared with Frey her selfish request of becoming a more proper saint. However, instead of receiving kind words, Frey points out to Cecilia that her role as the only saint in the country is much bigger than she thinks. Seeing Cecilia getting disheartened again, Urk becomes angry at her brother. Changing the topic, Frey asks Art if he had already decided on a deadline. Seeing Art shake his head, Frey suggested to him the Magic Knight selection exam. The exam is taken every year in teams of 5, where one cooperates and completes missions. The exam is very important, as the student's performance determines their career and future path. With Frey and the princess, along with Urk and Art, the group is made up of 4 members. Since they are still lacking one more member, Frey thought of adding Cecilia. Shocked, Cecilia never thought in her entire life that she would be grouped with such amazing people. Seeing how Cecilia nervously accepted the offer, Frey wonders if Cecilia will be fine. After completing all the members, both Cecilia and Princess Leia voiced out how they cannot fight. However, Frey is not worried, as he is certain that they will easily get top marks with Urk and Art with them. However, Urk tells her brother not to get his hopes up, revealing how both her and Art's magic swords have become unusable after fighting Karen. With the sword almost losing its power, Urk believes that it will take time before the magic sword can recover. Frey thought that there was still hope since Art is around, but Art is also facing the exact same problem. Since their problem now involves magic swords, Frey suggested that they talk to Karen. When the group asked Karen about recovering a magic sword, she told everyone that she had no clue. Karen reveals the truth that she only picked up the magic sword from a sealed-off frozen land. Karen suggested letting the magic sword recover over time. Karen clarifies that she only manages magic swords and that repairing them is a blacksmith's job. Karen guessed that Urk and the others still thought that their power came from the magic sword. Karen clarifies that Urk's power never came from the magic sword to begin with. Karen also shared how she has witnessed countless civilizations fall for relying on magic swords. Understanding what Karen meant, Art asks her if she can impart her knowledge to him. Karen thought that Art would ask for power, but did not expect him to ask for knowledge instead. Accepting Art's wish, Karen asks him what he wanted to know. Planning to avenge the humiliation he received, Marquis Razveri learned that the headmaster of the academy had approved of Art's enrollment. The headmaster asks Razveri if there is a problem with his decision. Marquis Razveri pointed out that Art is just a commoner with unclear origins, who used to work for a baron. The Marquis finds it hard to believe that a commoner like Art would be able to defeat the Locust Queen. What infuriates the Marquis even more is how close Art is to a noble family, and is even given a noble title. When the headmaster told the Marquis that the king himself gave the title to Art, Razveri responded that he would have opposed the king's decision if he were present at the time. As the Marquis finds the situation a national concern, the headmaster thought that the Marquis was just exaggerating. Since the Marquis can't seem to get the headmaster on his side, he decides to threaten him by revealing the tragic fate of the place called Asmild. When the headmaster asks the Marquis if he was seriously threatening him, Razveri turns with anger in his eyes, asking the headmaster if he looked like he was joking. The Marquis informs the headmaster that his men are just waiting outside, awaiting his instructions. However, the Marquis still respected the headmaster's noble lineage and hoped that the headmaster would understand his concern. Giving Art, a commoner, hope is something the Marquis finds unforgivable, and he even called it the greatest disgrace in the history of their nation. Marquis Razveri ordered his men to bring his artifact. The Marquis informs the headmaster that the object he brought is something only nobles are allowed to use. The item is used to secretly study and enhance the Queen Locust that Art had defeated. The Argonaut had already been tested out with soldiers. Listening to the Marquis, the headmaster asks if he is planning to use it on the students. Since many students in the academy aspire to join the military, the Marquis plans to use the artifact on those who plan to join the military. Using the upcoming exam as part of his plan, Marquis Razveri wishes to use a noble wearing the Argonaut to kill Art, and to make it look like an accident. Listening to the Marquis ramble on about how he wishes to eradicate Art, the headmaster remains silent. When the Marquis finally left, the headmaster was surprised that Ramon's predictions were correct. Meanwhile, Cecilia is receiving help from Karen in improving her saint powers. Others start to wonder if Karen's method is even safe in the first place. Karen clarifies that her methods are very dangerous, stating that if a normal person touches the vase, they would pass out in seconds, and worse is that they could die. What impresses Karen is how Cecilia is using her Saintess power to purify the monsters instead of using it to defeat them. Seeing Cecilia being hit during her training, Urk asks Art if he was really fine with what was happening. Art thought that Karen was being gentle towards Cecilia, and that he wouldn't be surprised if Karen dunked Cecilia's entire body in a poison bath. Since Karen is a known S-rank adventurer and a hero, Cecilia thought that she might be a secretly incredible saint. Art was surprised when Karen revealed that saints were once known for their strength. Karen finally understands why the country is making new weapons for national defense, seeing how troublesome the saint is. When Urk asked Karen what she was talking about, Karen shared a rumor she heard about something unpleasant. Since the conversation had nothing to do with Cecilia, Karen continued to hit her in the back. When Urk asked if there were faster ways for Cecilia to improve, Karen revealed that she never knew how to train a saint in the first place. This news shocked Cecilia so much that it broke her glasses. Karen clarified that she was only copying what the previous saint did. Since the method was starting to slow them down, Karen planned to use the Pool of Death next. With Cecilia all beaten and battered, Art suggested that they offer Cecilia at least a meal and a hot spring. Art learned from Xwood that there was a spring beneath the area that hadn't been dug up yet. Trying to imitate Rain's ability, Art used his magic and imagination to locate the spring beneath them. When Art discovered the spring, Karen was impressed and thought that the way Art used his magic was like trying to control nature itself. After locating the spring, the next step was to get the magic deep into the ground effectively. Using his everyday magic, laundry plus enhancement magic, Art was able to control the spring and pull it out of the ground. With his plan working, Art then left to gather food and suggested to the others that they could enjoy the spring first. As the ladies were now relaxing, Urk couldn't help but share her admiration toward Art. While having a conversation with Cecilia, Urk started to wonder why the title of noble meant so much. Despite the responsibility that a noble holds, Urk still believes that they are all humans in the end, and hopes that Cecilia would not think of commoners differently. Urk suggests to Cecilia that she talk to Art if she feels uncomfortable talking to other nobles, pointing out how Art was just a commoner who had received the title of noble. With Cecilia still unsure why she was chosen to be a saint, she felt disheartened by the responsibility she bears. But after receiving encouraging words from Urk, Cecilia felt energized and was now determined to pass the Magic Knight selection exam. That is all until Chapter 42. Please check out the comment below for more information.